The first thing I noticed was Paige holding my bouquet. Not a spare bouquet. Mine, the practice bundle Camille had made from grocery store roses and ivory ribbon, with one crooked stem we had laughed about in the hotel room. Paige held it at her waist beneath the wooden arbor while my father stood beside her, his arm bent for her to take. My mother was fluffing the back of Paige's cream dress. Evan stood at the opposite end of the aisle, but not in his marked position. His jaw was tight, and his hands hung empty at his sides. "For heaven's sake," Mom said, "nobody is asking you to marry her. Then stop putting her where Natalie belongs." "It's blocking," my father said. "We're blocking a ceremony. It's her ceremony." I was still in the doorway, unnoticed, with Paige's bridesmaid dress draped over one arm. I had driven 46 minutes through Friday traffic to retrieve it for her. Sweat had dried under the neckline of my blouse, and the plastic garment bag had cut a red groove across my fingers. The coordinator glanced toward me first. Her professional smile disappeared. Evan followed her eyes. Nobody said my name, not immediately. For one strange second, my family looked less like people caught doing something cruel than people annoyed that the missing furniture had arrived after they had already rearranged the room. 10 months earlier, Evan proposed to me beside our broken dishwasher. That was how he later described it, which made it sound as if he had knelt in a puddle holding a wrench. In reality, the dishwasher had stopped draining that afternoon, so we had eaten takeout lo mein from paper cartons while watching a repair video that began with a man saying, "This is easier than you think," a phrase that should be illegal. Evan paused the video and told me to reach under the sink for the flashlight. "There are 3 flashlights," I said. The blue one has dead batteries. Then the red one. The red one is in your truck." He stared at me. "You make romance incredibly difficult." I turned around and he was holding a ring between 2 chopsticks because his fingers were slick with machine grease. I laughed so hard I had to sit on the kitchen floor. "That is not the response I rehearsed," he said. "You rehearsed this?" "Once in the truck. It went better." Truck. He was very moved. I was still laughing when I said yes. Then I cried, which seemed to reassure him. He sat beside me on the vinyl floor, and for a while we leaned against the cabinet with our knees touching, the dishwasher full of gray water beside us. The ring was simple, an oval sapphire with 2 small diamonds. I loved it partly because Evan had chosen it and partly because it didn't look like anything my mother would have selected. "We should tell my parents before Linda sees it on Facebook and declares a national emergency," he said. "You're very casual about referring to my mother by her government name. She frightens me." "No, she doesn't. She should frighten more people." We called my parents the next morning and invited them to dinner. I also invited Paige because not inviting her would have required an explanation. And explanations in my family had a way of becoming 3-hour hearings in which the person asking for reasonable space was cross-examined until she apologized. Mom arrived 14 minutes early carrying a bakery cake nobody had requested. Dad came behind her with a bottle of champagne and the expression of a man who had been told there was a surprise but had already checked our driveway for a new car. Paige was 20 minutes late. We waited because Mom kept saying, "She's practically there," based on no information Paige had actually provided. The lasagna cooled on the counter. Dad opened the champagne too early, then put a spoon in the neck of the bottle because he had once heard that kept it bubbly. When Paige finally came in, she was wearing red lipstick and apologizing into her phone to someone else. "No, I know," she said. "I'm the worst. I'll call you after this family thing." She ended the call and kissed my cheek. Why is everyone staring at me? "We were waiting," Dad said. "You didn't have to." Mom gave me a tiny smile that meant not tonight. I had seen that smile at my college graduation when Paige disappeared for an hour because her boyfriend had posted a picture with another woman. I had seen it at Dad's 60th birthday when Paige arrived already angry about a parking ticket and Mom quietly moved the cake cutting until she calmed down. Not tonight never meant the problem went away. It meant the rest of us stepped around it. Evan reached under the table and squeezed my knee. "We have news," I said. Paige looked at my hand. Her mouth opened. Oh my God! Mom screamed before I could confirm anything. She came around the table and grabbed both my shoulders, then pulled me into a hug so hard my chin struck her collarbone. My daughter is getting married. Dad lifted his glass. I knew it. You thought we bought a car, Evan said. I considered several possibilities. Paige took my hand and examined the ring. She was smiling, but her thumb moved over the sapphire as if she were testing whether it was real. It's blue. That's generally what sapphires are, I said. I know. I just always pictured you with a diamond. I pictured her saying yes, Evan said. The rest was flexible. Mom was already asking about dates. Dad wanted to know whether Evan's parents knew. Paige wanted to try on the ring, which I pretended not to hear, because some requests become arguments only after you acknowledge them. Then Mom started crying. They were happy tears at first. She said she had saved my grandmother's lace handkerchief and always imagined wrapping it around my bouquet. She said Dad would need a new suit. Dad said his navy one was perfectly good, and Mom told him he had worn it to 3 funerals. No bride wants a funeral suit, Ray. It didn't cause the funerals. For a little while, it was warm and ridiculous, and exactly what I had wanted. Even Paige seemed lighter. She took pictures of Evan and me by the kitchen window, ordering Dad to move a lamp and telling me to stop tucking my chin. Then, as we sat down to eat, Mom touched Paige's wrist. And someday we'll do all of this for you. The room shifted by half an inch. Paige withdrew her hand. Can Natalie have 15 minutes? I was only saying, I'm fine, Mom. I know you're fine. You say that like you're trying to stop a gas leak. Dad became fascinated by the lasagna server. I cut a square from the corner and put it on Paige's plate because she liked the crisp edges. It was automatic. I didn't even realize I had done it until Evan looked at me. After dinner, Mom followed me into the kitchen while I scraped plates. I hope I didn't spoil anything, she said. You didn't. I worry about her. She seemed happy for us. She is. Of course she is. But it's hard when you're younger sister. I'm older than Paige. Mom blinked. That's what I meant. She lowered her voice anyway, though Paige was laughing with Evan 6 feet away. You know how seriously she takes these milestones. I stacked 2 plates. Most people take marriage seriously. Don't be cute. I'm not. Mom sighed and picked up a dish towel. She could make a sigh sound like she had been handed the ruined remains of a relationship and asked to sew it together before dessert. I want this to be special for you, she said. I also don't want your sister feeling pushed aside. There it was. A problem introduced before we had chosen a date, dressed up as concern for me. How would my getting married push her aside? It wouldn't. Not literally. What does it do figuratively? You're twisting my words. I'm trying to locate them. She gave me a tired look. Just include her. That's all I'm asking. Paige and I had never been enemies. That would have been simpler. We borrowed clothes, sent each other pictures of unfortunate haircuts, and had a running argument over whether our father looked more like a tired Harrison Ford or an alert shoe salesman. See, when I had the flu the previous winter, Paige appeared with soup, cold medicine, and a candle labeled Winter Barn that smelled like a wet fence. She stayed long enough to change my sheets and complain about my streaming passwords. She could be generous. She could also walk into a room full of people celebrating someone else and somehow leave with everyone worried about her. A week after the engagement dinner, Mom invited herself over with a binder. She had divided it with color-coded tabs: venue, food, flowers, dress, music, and other. The other section was the thickest, which felt ominous. I'm not taking over, she announced, placing it on my coffee table. Evan, sitting in the recliner with a beer, looked at me. What? Mom said. Nothing, he replied. I'm excited to see what taking over would look like. She ignored him and opened to a spreadsheet of venues within a 90-mile radius. She had listed price, capacity, parking, and what she called bathroom dignity. You don't want your guests lining up beside a mop bucket, she explained. That's fair, I said. For 2 hours, we looked at converted barns, hotel ballrooms, vineyards, golf clubs, and one former factory that charged extra for chairs. Mom dismissed our favorite restaurant because the private room had no proper aisle. "You need an entrance," she said. "I enter restaurants all the time. As a bride, Natalie." Evan slid his foot against mine beneath the coffee table. We finally agreed to visit Cedar Hollow, a restored lodge outside Madison with oak floors, a stone fireplace, and an outdoor arbor facing a line of maple trees. It was more traditional than I had imagined, but the pictures had warmth. Nothing was covered in gold. The chairs were included. Mom closed the binder, satisfied. One more thing. Of course there was. I know you've always pictured Camille as your maid of honor. Camille and I had been friends since our first office job, where we bonded after a manager asked us to decorate the break room without giving us money. She was the person I called when my car made a noise, when Dad went into surgery, and when I first realized I was falling in love with Evan. "I don't picture it," I said. "I'm asking her." Mom rubbed one thumb over the edge of the binder. "Couldn't you have two?" Evan stopped moving his foot. "Two maids of honor? It's very common now. Paige is your only sister. She can be a bridesmaid. You know she'll hear the difference." "There is a difference." Mom's face tightened, not angrily. Hurt was her sharpest tool because she rarely seemed aware she was holding it. "I just hate the thought of her standing there feeling like she matters less." I glanced at Evan. He didn't rescue me. At the time, I thought that meant he did not understand how impossible the question was. Later, I would realize he understood perfectly. I picked up my phone and called Paige. When she answered, music was playing behind her. "Hey," she said. "Everything okay? Everything's fine." Mom watched my face. "I wanted to ask if you'd be one of my maids of honor." There was a pause, followed by a bright little gasp. "Seriously? Seriously? I thought you picked Camille. I can have two." "That is so you," Paige said warmly. "You always figure out how to make everybody fit." Across the room, Evan lowered his eyes to his beer. I smiled because my mother was smiling, because Paige sounded happy, and because I was still naive enough to hear her words as gratitude instead of prophecy. "I'll make it work," I said. The first thing Paige did as co-maid of honor was create a group chat called Nat's Final Countdown and add 11 people I didn't know. I stared at the names while notifications rolled across my screen. "Who is Kelsey M? Do we like cowgirl hats? I can get us a discount on a party bus." Someone named Brianna sent a champagne emoji, a skull, and a photograph of pink boots. I called Paige. "Why are there strangers planning my bachelorette party?" "They're not strangers. Kelsey works with me. She's a stranger to me. You met her at my birthday." "The birthday where I left after 20 minutes because Dad locked his keys in the car?" "Yes." "She was wearing green." "That doesn't help." Paige lowered her voice. "I'm trying to make this fun." "I know. Could we make it fun with people I recognize?" She went quiet long enough that I checked whether the call had dropped. "Fine," she said. "I'll remove them. You don't have to remove everyone. I just don't need a party bus." "Got it. No party bus. We'll sit in a tasteful circle and discuss municipal bonds." I laughed despite myself. "Thank you." When I hung up, Evan was putting coffee grounds into the machine. He used too many, so his coffee always tasted like something administered during an interrogation. "How's joint leadership?" he asked. "Efficient. We've alienated our first stakeholder. Is the stakeholder your sister?" "Possibly." "Then I'm impressed it took this long." I leaned against the counter. "She's excited." "I'm sure she is." He said it neutrally, which was worse than saying it sarcastically. "What?" "Nothing. You can't use my mother's word against me." He pressed the button on the coffee maker. "Did you want Paige as a second maid of honor? I want her involved." "That wasn't what I asked. This costs me nothing." "Okay." The machine began making a choking sound. I pointed at it. "Your coffee is dying. My coffee is being born. Then it's breach." He smiled, but he didn't let me redirect him completely. Camille might think it costs something. Camille did not appear to think so. When I told her over lunch, she took a bite of her turkey sandwich, chewed, and said, "Do I get half the work?" That is not the reaction I prepared for. Do I get half the work? Yes. Excellent. I love Paige. You love delegation. I can contain multitudes. We were sitting at a metal table outside our office building where the wind had already carried away 2 napkins and a packet of mustard. Camille pinned the remaining napkins under her phone. I didn't want you to feel demoted, I said. I can't be demoted from an unpaid position. You know what I mean. She studied me over her sunglasses. Camille was short, broad-shouldered, and had the unnerving habit of letting silence do her interrogating. Did your mom ask? She suggested. It'll be easier this way. For whom? A napkin worked itself loose. She trapped it with one finger without looking. For everybody. Famously specific group. I took a drink of iced tea. You and Evan should start a club. We have one. We meet Thursdays to discuss your evasive language. He's working Thursday. We moved it. I threw my pickle at her. She caught it against her sweater, looked down, and ate it. That Saturday, we toured Cedar Hollow. I had expected to go with Evan and possibly my parents. Mom brought Paige, and Paige brought Nolan. I had met Nolan several times, though never long enough to know him beyond his excellent posture and his habit of calling people boss. He sold medical equipment and traveled throughout Wisconsin and northern Illinois. He wore expensive sneakers, remembered bartenders' names, and seemed to like Paige most when she was entertaining a room. "Hope it's cool I came, boss," he told Evan. "Don't call me boss." "Got it, boss." Evan looked at me. "I'm going to push him in the pond. There is no pond. We haven't toured the full property. Cedar Hollow was prettier than the photographs." The lodge sat on a low hill surrounded by maple and pine, with weathered gray siding and wide windows overlooking the lawn. Inside, the oak floors gave under our steps in a way that made the building feel old rather than flimsy. There was a stone fireplace large enough for Dad to stand in, which he immediately demonstrated. "Ray," Mom said, "get out of there. I'm checking the scale. You're getting soot on your jacket." Paige took pictures of everything. Nolan took pictures of Paige taking pictures. Mom questioned the venue manager about outlet placement, candle restrictions, and what happened if a guest clogged a toilet. "Mom," I whispered, "someone has to ask. No one has to ask in front of Nolan." Nolan nodded thoughtfully. "It's a fair operational concern." Outside, the arbor stood at the far end of a flat lawn. The maples behind it had begun turning orange at the tips. White folding chairs were stacked under a covered patio, and someone had left a rake leaning against the fence. I could see it immediately, not a fantasy version with perfect light and everyone crying at the correct volume, but the real thing. Evan waiting under the arbor, Camille trying not to smudge her mascara, Dad walking too quickly because he got nervous when people watched him, Mom whispering instructions from the first row. Paige stepped onto the aisle. "You'd need flowers on the arbor," she said. "Otherwise it looks empty. I like it simple. Simple is good. I'm saying enhanced simple." Nolan raised his phone. "Stand under it, Nat. I'll take a picture." I walked down the aisle alone, mostly to see how the ground felt under my shoes. Halfway there, Mom called, "Slower," and Dad called, "Not that slow," as if I had already become difficult to operate. Evan waited near the arbor. When I reached him, he took my hand and turned us toward the empty chairs. "You like it," he said. "I do. I can tell because your forehead stopped doing that thing." "What thing?" "The budget increase." "I don't have a budget increase." "You absolutely do," Paige called. "It's inherited." She pointed at Dad, who was frowning at the gutter. The venue manager told us our preferred Saturday in October was available due to a cancellation. Mom immediately asked whether we could hold it without a deposit. The manager said she could give us 48 hours. As we walked back toward the lodge, Paige caught my arm. "Book it." I looked at her. "You think? You've hated everything else." "I haven't hated everything. You called the hotel ballroom a corporate funeral. It had gray carpeting. This place feels like you." She looked back at the arbor. "And Mom can't fit 600 chair bows in her car, so there's a natural limit." That was Paige. She could be the reason I wanted to scream and the person who understood the scream before I made a sound. We signed the contract the next afternoon. Mom celebrated by ordering personalized venue sketches from an online artist. Paige celebrated by renaming the group chat Cedar Hollow Hoedown, even though nothing about the venue was a hoedown. Evan celebrated by fixing the dishwasher and leaving the invoice on the refrigerator with ceremony fund written across the top. Planning settled into our life the way fine dust settles over a house renovation. It was everywhere, even when no one was actively making it. My mother texted me tablecloth colors at 6 in the morning. Paige sent links to dresses during meetings. Dad developed a fascination with shuttle buses. Evan and I agreed on a budget, disagreed about barbecue, and discovered that wedding photographers use the phrase, investment begins at when they meant price. Most of it was enjoyable. That was the part I later had trouble explaining. My family did not spend 10 months openly ruining my wedding. Mom could be exhausting, but she also drove 2 hours to pick up vintage glass vases because I mentioned liking them. Dad built a wooden card box in his garage and sanded it so smooth I kept touching the lid. Paige found a florist whose work I loved and negotiated free delivery by promising to tag her business in every photograph. The kindness made the pressure harder to name. At the first dress appointment, Mom brought the lace handkerchief she had saved from Grandma. She kept it sealed in a sandwich bag inside her purse, as if it were evidence. Camille arrived with coffee. Paige arrived with Nolan's mother. I knew she was Nolan's mother because Paige swept into the bridal shop saying, "You remember Cheryl?" I did not. Cheryl hugged me anyway. She smelled like vanilla perfume and held me long enough to suggest either instant affection or poor depth perception. "I adore weddings," she said. "That's why I invited her," Paige explained. Mom's mouth tightened. She had invited only herself, Camille, and Paige. She believed wedding dress shopping was sacred, though she had also invited a sales associate named June to witness it by scheduling an appointment at June's workplace. Cheryl sat beside Mom on the blush-colored sofa. "What colors are we considering?" she asked. "For Natalie's dress," Mom said. "For everything. We're here for Natalie today." Of course. I carried the first 4 gowns into the fitting room while their silence introduced itself. June helped me into satin, lace, tulle, and something described as architectural. The architectural dress made me look like a courthouse. The lace one itched under my arms. The tulle dress was beautiful in photographs and made a sound like a plastic grocery bag when I walked. Paige was honest without being cruel. "No," she said to the satin one, "your breasts look apologetic." Cheryl choked on her coffee. Mom said, "Paige." "What?" "They do." Even June laughed. The 5th dress was an ivory crepe gown with a square neckline and a row of covered buttons down the back. It had no glitter, no lace, and no dramatic train. When June zipped it, I looked like myself on a day when everything had gone right. I stepped out. Camille's face changed first. Mom put one hand over her mouth. Paige sat forward. "That's it," she said. I looked at Mom in the mirror. She opened the sandwich bag and took out Grandma's handkerchief. "I wish she could see you." For a few seconds, no one tried to improve anything. Mom tucked the handkerchief around my fingers, and I watched her reflection blur. Then Cheryl's phone rang. She glanced down and stood quickly. "I'm sorry. I have to take this." Paige looked at the screen as Cheryl passed her. Something moved across her face. Alarm, then hope. Cheryl stepped into the hallway. "What?" Mom asked. "Nothing. Was that Nolan?" "No." "Paige." Paige pressed her lips together, trying not to smile. He told his mom he was going ring shopping. The room erupted. Mom dropped Grandma's handkerchief. Cheryl returned, realized the secret had escaped, and started crying. Paige started crying. Camille bent to retrieve the handkerchief before someone stepped on it. I remained on the platform in my wedding dress while both mothers hugged my sister. June stood beside me, holding 6 silver clips. "Would you like to try the veil?" she asked softly. "Yes," I said, but no one heard me. June put the veil in my hair while everyone else stood in a knot around Paige. It was fingertip length, soft and plain except for a narrow satin edge. She anchored it beneath my loose bun, then guided me toward the larger mirror. "There," she said. I looked like a bride, not someone trying on a costume, not a woman standing on a carpeted platform beneath fluorescent lights while her family celebrated another engagement that had not technically happened. A bride. Camille came to stand beside me. "That's the one," she said. "You said that about the dress." "I'm consistent." She held up her phone and took a picture. In the mirror behind us, Paige was showing Mom a photograph of a ring she had once sent Nolan as inspiration. Cheryl had both hands clasped under her chin. "Take one from the back," I said. Camille did. Then she took one of me smiling, one of me pretending to model, and one of June crouched behind me because the veil had caught on a fitting room hook. Mom eventually looked up. Her smile vanished. "Oh, Natalie." The room quieted by degrees. Paige turned and saw me. She lowered her phone. Mom walked toward the platform, stepping around Grandma's handkerchief, which Camille had placed safely on the sofa. "You put the veil on without me," I asked. "I didn't hear you." "I know." The words sat there, small and clean. I had not sharpened them. I was proud of that at the time. Mom touched the satin edge near my shoulder. "It's beautiful." "It is. You should have called me over." I looked at her reflection. I shouldn't have had to. Behind us, Cheryl suddenly became very interested in the dress catalog. Paige stared at the floor. Mom's fingers stopped moving. For 1 second, I thought she might argue. Instead, her face folded. "You're right. My mother did apologize. That mattered. She was not a cartoon tyrant who woke each morning wondering how to ruin me before breakfast. She could recognize a wound when she saw it. She just had a remarkable ability to recognize the same kind of wound again later, as if it were a new species." "I got carried away," she said. "I'm sorry." I nodded. She held out her hand, and Camille gave her the handkerchief. Mom wrapped it around my bouquet hand again, more carefully this time. Paige came over last. "You look gorgeous," she said. "Thank you. I'm sorry, too. It's not your fault Nolan may be shopping for a ring." "No, but I didn't have to turn your appointment into a press conference. That part was a little your fault." She gave me a crooked smile. "Fair." We bought the dress and veil. Mom insisted on paying for the veil, which was generous and also ensured she could refer to it as my veil from Mom for the next decade. In the parking lot, Paige waited beside my car while Cheryl and Mom continued discussing jewelers. "I didn't invite Cheryl to make today about me," she said. "Why did you invite her? She's fun." She cried because her son might have visited a store. "She's emotionally available. She held me for 30 seconds without knowing who I was. She likes you." She thought I was Camille. Paige laughed, then pressed her lips together. "I really am happy for you, Nat. I know. I don't want you to think I'm competing." "I don't." That was true in the narrowest sense. Paige was not standing beside a scoreboard making tally marks. She did not need to compete because Mom had always adjusted the categories until we could both be winning. 2 Saturdays later, Nolan proposed at a rooftop restaurant in Milwaukee. Paige called me from the women's restroom before dessert. She was whisper screaming so loudly I had to hold the phone away from my ear. He did it. "What?" he proposed. "Why are you in a bathroom?" I told him I needed to pee. Immediately after he proposed, I needed to call you. I stood up from our couch. Evan muted the television. "Did you say yes?" "Obviously." "Then go back out there. I'm shaking." "Paige." "What?" "Go spend your engagement with the man you just agreed to marry." She took a breath. "Right. Yes, I love you. I love you too." When I told Evan, he smiled. Good for them. That sounded almost sincere. It was sincere. I like Nolan. You threatened to push him in a pond. There wasn't a pond. The threat had no operational path. The family chat exploded with photographs. Nolan had chosen a round diamond on a thin gold band, almost exactly like the reference Paige had shown us. In one picture, she held her hand against the city lights. In another, Nolan kissed her temple, while she looked directly at the camera. Mom planned an engagement brunch for the following Sunday. She used the same bakery that had made the cake for my announcement, but this cake had 2 tiers and gold lettering. Evan noticed. Don't, I whispered as we carried a bowl of fruit into my parents' dining room. I didn't say anything. You looked at the cake mathematically. It has twice the architecture. You got champagne. They put a spoon in it. Dad had, in fact, placed a spoon in the champagne again. He stood near the sideboard explaining to Nolan that weddings were an industry now, as though marriage had been a volunteer effort until recently. Paige wore white. Mom wore pale pink. Cheryl brought a centerpiece large enough to disrupt conversation across the table. The brunch was lovely. That was another inconvenient fact. Nolan gave a funny toast about realizing he loved Paige when she corrected a waiter who had undercharged their table. Paige said, "It was $12, and he said, "Exactly. A woman of principle." Dad welcomed Nolan to the family. Mom cried before she started speaking and never fully recovered. Then she took Paige's hand in mine. "My two brides," she said. The phrase tightened something beneath my ribs. Camille, seated beside me, reached for her orange juice. Evan looked at his plate. Paige laughed. "Mom, Natalie is the bride right now. You both are. My wedding's first," I said. It came out lightly, almost as a joke. Mom's eyes flicked toward me. "Of course it is." Nolan leaned back. "We haven't even picked a year." Paige turned to him. "We said next spring. We said we'd discuss next spring. I thought that was the discussion. It was more of a mention." Cheryl jumped in to say May was lovely. Dad said May could be rainy. Mom said rain photographs were romantic if the photographer knew what they were doing. Nolan buttered a biscuit with unnecessary concentration. After brunch, I found him alone in the garage looking at Dad's card box. Dad had burned NE into the lid, surrounded by two slightly uneven maple leaves. The E looked a little like a comb. "He made this?" Nolan asked. 3 weekends and at least one blood blister. "It's nice. He can make one for you." Nolan ran his thumb over the smooth corner. "I probably sounded like an ass in there." "You sounded surprised." "I want to marry her." I waited. He smiled without humor. That sentence always sounds bad when someone follows it with silence. "You don't have to explain anything to me." "I know. I just don't want her thinking I proposed so we could race you guys down the aisle. Do you think she thinks that? I think Paige likes motion. If something's moving, she knows how to be excited about it." He looked through the open garage door toward the kitchen windows. Paige stood inside with both our mothers, holding up her hand while Cheryl photographed the ring again. "She's already sent me 6 venues," he said. One of them was Cedar Hollow. I turned to him. "Our venue?" She said she was using it as a price comparison. She'd hate the bathrooms. "That's what your mom said." I laughed, but the sound did not last. "She won't book our venue." "I know." He said it too quickly. The following week, Mom arrived at a menu tasting for my wedding with a second binder. Paige's name was written across the front in gold marker. "You cannot bring another bride's binder to my barbecue," Evan told her. "It's not barbecue yet," Mom said. "That's what we're deciding. It's barbecue in my heart." The caterer set small plates in front of us. Smoked chicken, sliced brisket, roasted vegetables, mashed potatoes, and a mushroom pasta Mom called suspiciously beige. Paige was supposed to join us but canceled because Nolan had a work dinner. I did not understand why his work dinner prevented her from eating brisket with us, but Mom said they needed to protect their couple time. "We're also a couple," Evan said. "You see each other every day. That's usually how living together works." Dad hid a smile behind his water glass. "We chose the brisket and chicken, with the beige pasta for guests who did not eat meat. Mom wanted plated service. Evan wanted a buffet because he said no one should have to wait while a college student named Trent located table 9. I wanted the buffet, too. Mom looked disappointed but wrote it down. When we got to desserts, she opened Paige's binder. "Just quickly," she said. "Do you remember whether Cedar Hollow had any spring Saturdays?" "No," I said. "You don't remember, or they didn't?" "I don't know. She's only asking because the country club is far too expensive." Evan set down his fork. "Linda." "What?" "Close the other binder." Mom looked at me, not him. I should have said it myself. I knew that even then. "Please," I added. She closed it. I was only asking. Our tasting ended with 6 miniature pies packed into a white cardboard box. In the parking lot, Mom handed the box to Dad and pulled me aside. "You know I'm capable of being excited for both of you. I know. Your wedding isn't being taken away because your sister got engaged." I didn't say it was. "You're acting as if I committed some terrible offense by bringing a binder. It was my tasting." And we tasted. We decided everything. We spent 20 minutes talking about Paige's venue search. 10 at most. "Mom." She crossed her arms. "Do you expect me to put her life on hold until October?" "No. I expect you not to plan her wedding during appointments for mine." She asked for help. So did I. Her expression changed, almost imperceptibly. The hurt appeared first, followed by annoyance that I had made her feel it. "I am helping you." "I know. I'm asking you to be with me when you're with me." Dad waited several yards away, holding the pie box against his stomach. Evan stood beside our car, deliberately giving us privacy while watching closely enough to cross the distance if I asked. Mom glanced toward him. "Ever since the engagement, he's been encouraging you to keep score. Evan hasn't said anything about scores. He doesn't have to. I see the looks. He was looking at a second wedding binder at our menu tasting. He can be very rigid. He asked you to close a binder. In front of everyone, the caterer had gone to get pie. That isn't the point." I nearly asked what the point was, but I knew how the conversation would end. Mom would cry or become cold. I would spend the drive home constructing a gentler version of everything I had said, then call and deliver it until she felt loved again. Instead, I kissed her cheek. "Thank you for coming to the tasting." She looked startled. Then I walked to the car. Evan did not ask what she had said until we were on the highway. "She thinks you're making me keep score." "Am I?" "No." "Are you keeping score?" I watched the winter fields pass beyond the window, brown and flat beneath a colorless sky. "I don't know." He reached across the console and turned my palm upward beneath his. At home, Dad called to tell me we had accidentally taken the miniature pies. "They were ours," I said. "Your mother thought they were for everyone. There were 6. We paid for the tasting." A muffled conversation followed. "She says, never mind. Tell her we'll bring 2 on Sunday." Another muffled exchange. "She says Paige likes chocolate silk. I know what Paige likes." I stared at the white box on our counter. "Give her the chocolate," I said. When Evan opened the box later, there were 2 chocolate silk pies. He looked at me. "What?" "Nothing," he said, and took the apple. The 2 pies survived until Sunday because Evan hid them behind a bag of frozen peas. "You understand this is how food aggression develops," I told him as he packed them into a grocery bag. "I'm protecting our resources." "From whom?" He looked at me. "Right. My mother." At my parents' house, Paige took the chocolate silk pie from Dad and kissed my cheek. "You remembered. I usually do." She missed the edge in my voice or chose not to touch it. Nolan heard it. He was standing near the refrigerator with his sleeves rolled to his elbows, opening a bottle of wine. "I like apple," he offered. "That's because you're emotionally stable," Paige said. "I thought it was because I like cinnamon. No one just likes apple." Dad looked down at the remaining pie. Should I be concerned? Lunch had not started before Mom brought out Paige's binder. It now had extra tabs, several fabric samples, and a transparent pouch full of business cards. She cleared a space beside the mashed potatoes. "We found a venue," she announced. Nolan froze with the corkscrew still in the bottle. Paige gave Mom a warning look. "We found one we like." "The country club?" "We toured it," Nolan said. "That's all." "You said the terrace was perfect," Paige told him. "I said it had a nice terrace." Mom flipped to a printed photograph of a long white building overlooking a golf course. "They have a May date." "We're not getting married this May," Nolan said. "Next May," Mom corrected. "I know which May." The cork came free with a loud pop. Paige folded her arms. "Why are you acting like someone served you a subpoena? Because every time I come over, another part of a wedding I haven't agreed to is already printed. No one printed a wedding." Mom slowly slid a page beneath the binder. Nolan saw it. "What's that?" "Nothing," Mom said. He pulled out the sheet. It was a sample save the date with Paige and Nolan's names in gold script above a date the following May. Dad took a sudden interest in carving the chicken. "It's a mock-up," Paige said, "of our wedding date. A possible date. You told me we were slowing down. We are going slow. We're eating chicken." It was funny enough that I almost laughed. Nolan did not. He placed the page back on the table with care. That was when I understood he was genuinely angry. Nolan joked when he was irritated. He became polite when he wanted to leave. "I need some air." "It's 30 degrees, Paige said. "Perfect." He walked through the mudroom and shut the door behind him. Mom looked offended. That was an overreaction. "No," Evan said. I kicked his ankle under the table. He glanced at me. "What?" Paige shoved back her chair and followed Nolan. Mom began straightening the fabric samples. "She gets so excited," she said. "He knows that." "Does she know he doesn't?" Evan asked. "Could we not analyze their relationship while they're standing in the driveway? Then maybe don't design their save the dates during lunch." Mom looked at me as if I had brought him in off the street. "Natalie, he's not wrong. You don't have to take sides." The phrase was so familiar, I nearly accepted it. Taking Paige's side was caring. Taking my mother's side was gratitude. Any other position was divisive. "I'm not taking a side," I said. "I'm saying Nolan looks surprised." Dad quietly handed me the gravy. The argument in the driveway lasted 11 minutes. Paige came back alone, red-faced and furious. She went upstairs. Nolan's car pulled away. Mom started after her. "Give her a minute," Dad said. "She shouldn't be alone." "She's been alone for 4 seconds, Linda." Mom stopped at the bottom of the stairs. Her whole body seemed to lean upward. That was the contradiction at the center of her love for Paige. She could not stand to watch her hurt, and she could not stop doing the things that kept her from learning what to do with hurt. The wedding invitations arrived on a humid afternoon in late July. Evan carried the boxes inside and set them on the dining table while I stood over the air conditioning vent. "They're heavier than marriage," he said. "There are 112. We know too many people. You invited 9 electricians. I invited 4 electricians. The others are spouses. Electricians marry each other? We're an efficient trade." The invitations were thick cream cardstock with dark blue lettering and a small line drawing of the Cedar Hollow Arbor. We had abandoned Mom's preferred deckled edges after learning they cost an additional $180. Camille came over with wine, stamps, and a rubber fingertip she claimed would make envelope stuffing an elite operation. Paige was supposed to bring the address list. She arrived an hour late without it. Her sunglasses stayed on after she entered the house. She was wearing work clothes and carrying her heels in one hand. "I need a drink." Camille took one look at her and filled a glass. "What happened?" I asked. "Nothing happened. That's becoming a hereditary word." Paige sat at the table and removed her sunglasses. Her eyes were swollen. "Nolan thinks we should postpone." "You haven't set a date," Camille said. "Exactly. He wants to postpone setting one." Camille glanced at me and began organizing stamps. I sat across from Paige. "Did he say why?" "He says we've been fighting. Have you?" "Couples fight." That wasn't the question. She stared into her wine. "He doesn't like wedding planning. Most people don't. He says it isn't the planning. He says he feels like he got engaged to me and immediately entered a committee." From the kitchen, Evan made a sound that might have been a cough. I looked toward him. He opened the refrigerator and became innocent. "What do you want?" I asked Paige. "To marry him." "Besides that, what does that mean? If the country club and the May date and Mom's sample cards disappeared, what would you want?" Her mouth tightened. "Why should they disappear? They don't have to." "I'm asking which part matters. All of it matters." "Okay, you think I'm shallow. I don't. You got exactly what you wanted." I looked around my dining room at the boxes of unassembled invitations, the borrowed folding chairs, and the spreadsheet showing how much we still owed the photographer. "I'm licking envelopes on a Wednesday. You know what I mean. Evan proposed because he was ready. Nolan proposed because he knew I was waiting. The room went quiet except for the refrigerator humming. You don't know that, I said. Yes, I do. She reached for another drink, then noticed her glass was still full. Camille picked up the rubber fingertip. I'm going to assemble invitations in the living room with the television at an irresponsible volume. I'll help, Evan said. They left us at the table. Paige pressed her palms to her eyes. I shouldn't have said that. Probably not. I'm sorry. Are you afraid he doesn't want to marry you? She lowered her hands. I'm afraid he wants to want to. That was the first honest thing anyone had said about their engagement. I moved my chair beside hers. She leaned against me, and I put my arm around her. For a while, we sat with unopened invitation boxes between us. Nolan ended the engagement 3 weeks later. I was standing barefoot in our living room while Evan attempted to teach me a slow dance. He had learned by watching videos and had developed the confidence of a man who had absorbed 12 minutes of expertise. Stop anticipating, he said. You're counting out loud, so you know what's coming. That is anticipation. My phone rang on the coffee table. Mom's name lit the screen. Let it go, Evan said. It stopped. Then Dad called. I answered. Natalie, he said. His voice sounded wrong. Can you come over? Mom met us in the driveway, barefoot despite the gravel. She'd been crying so hard her face looked swollen. He left, she said. Where's Paige? Upstairs. She won't talk to us. The ring sat on the kitchen table beside a water glass. Its small round diamond caught the overhead light every time someone moved. Dad stood at the sink with both hands braced on the counter. Mom kept wiping an already clean spot beside the ring. What happened? I asked. He came here, Mom said. He gave it back. He took the ring off her? No, she did. He didn't ask for it. He said she should decide what to do with it. That sounded like Nolan. What did he say? Mom's mouth twisted. A lot of therapy language. He loves her, but love isn't enough. They want different things. He doesn't know where her wishes end and ours begin. Evan looked down. Mom saw. Don't, she said. I didn't say anything. You never have to. Dad turned from the sink. Linda. What? He's been judging us since the engagement. Nolan made this decision, I said. I know that. Then why are you talking about Evan? Because everybody acts as though loving Paige is some kind of flaw. No one said that. She is upstairs destroyed, and all of you want to debate wording. I went up before I said something we could not unsay. Paige sat on the floor beside her bed in an old college sweatshirt, staring at the wall. Her makeup had left dark half-moons under her eyes. Did Mom send you? She asked. Dad called. Of course he did. I sat beside her. For several minutes she did not speak. Then she said, He packed everything I kept at his apartment. I'm sorry. He folded my jeans. That monster. A sound escaped her that broke halfway between a laugh and a sob. He said he loves me. I'm sure he does. He said he can't marry a version of us built for other people. Downstairs, a cabinet closed hard. I told him I'd change, Paige whispered. He said he didn't want me to audition. I held her while she cried. She gripped the back of my shirt like she was afraid the room was moving. When I finally came downstairs, Mom was waiting. I need you to help me protect her, she said. The request arrived before I had put on my shoes. From what? From all the wedding talk. At least for a while. My invitations are going out. I'm not asking you to cancel anything. What are you asking? No dress pictures in the family chat. Don't discuss the honeymoon around her. Maybe postpone the shower. The shower is in 5 weeks. She was supposed to help plan it. Camille can handle it. That isn't the point. Mom's eyes filled again. She cannot spend the next 2 months being reminded every day that you got the life she just lost. I looked toward the ceiling, where the floor creaked above us. Evan waited by the door without touching his coat. All right, I said, for a while. On the drive home, he kept both hands on the steering wheel. She's devastated, I said. I know, this is different. I know. You don't sound like you know. He glanced at me. How much of our wedding is she allowed to need? I turned toward the dark window. Behind us in my parents' bright kitchen, Paige's engagement ring was still sitting on the table, and I hated myself for thinking of the 2 chocolate pies. I did not tell Evan I was thinking about the pies. I told him he was being unfair. She lost the person she thought she was marrying. I know. You keep saying that in a tone that means the opposite. I can feel bad for Paige and still notice what's happening. What's happening? Our wedding has become a hazardous substance your family has to keep away from her. I folded my arms. Mom asked for a little sensitivity. She asked you to postpone your shower, and I said no. You said Camille could handle it. That's not the same thing. At least I'm not calling the marriage off. He flinched. The moment the words left my mouth, I wanted them back. I didn't mean, I know what you meant. He turned into our driveway and put the truck in park. The porch light cast a pale square across the hood. Neither of us moved. I'm sorry, I said. He rubbed both hands over his face. I'm not trying to make you choose between me and your family. It feels like you're asking me to choose every time I help them. No, I'm asking you to notice when helping them means disappearing from your own life. I was upstairs with my sister for an hour. I'm not talking about the hour. He got out of the truck. I sat alone for another minute, angry because I could not decide which of us I was defending. For the next 2 weeks, the family chat went strangely quiet. Mom sent photographs of Dad's basil plant and a video of a squirrel falling off their bird feeder. Nobody mentioned the invitations, even after Evan and I spent an entire evening stamping them and carried 3 white trays into the post office like we were submitting evidence. Paige texted me privately. Did you mail them? Just did. I'm excited for you. Thank you. A minute later, another message appeared. I might mute wedding stuff sometimes. Not because I'm not happy. I understand. I typed 3 more responses and deleted all of them. Finally, I sent a blue heart. She sent one back. The shower was held in the private room of a neighborhood Italian restaurant because Camille believed homes should not be cleaned for parties. You clean before people come, she explained, then clean after they leave. That's a scam with appetizers. She organized everything without putting the word shower in the family chat. She used email, direct messages, and what she called targeted diplomacy. Mom tried to add a balloon arch. Camille told her the ceiling was too low, though I later measured it and discovered she had lied. Paige arrived early in a dark green wrap dress and spent 20 minutes tying ivory ribbons around small bags of coffee beans. She looked thinner. Her engagement ring was gone, but a pale indentation still circled her finger. You don't have to do all this, I said. I'm co-maid of honor. You could just be my sister today. That sounds worse. She smiled, and for a moment we were ourselves again. Mom entered carrying 2 framed photographs of me and Evan. One was from our engagement dinner. In the other, we stood beneath the Cedar Hollow Arbor during the venue tour, my hair blown across my face. I thought we could put these by the cake, she said. Paige's hand stopped on the ribbon. Mom noticed and immediately turned the frames toward her body. Or not. Put them out, Paige said. I can leave them in the car. Mom, I'm not going to shatter because Natalie has photographs. No one said you would. You're holding them like they're pornography. Camille took both frames. I have a table for sanctioned romantic material. She carried them away before Mom could answer. The party was better than I had expected. We ate pasta, drank Prosecco, and played one game in which guests had to guess whether certain habits belonged to me or Evan. Almost everyone correctly identified him as the person who kept emergency socks in his truck. Nobody believed I had once eaten an entire cheesecake with a serving spoon after a 12-hour workday. That was one time, I said. It was a large cheesecake, Mom replied. Paige stood to give a toast before dessert. She held her glass in both hands. The room became gently quiet. Natalie has always made life look easier than it is. She began. If you call her at 2 in the morning, she answers like she was already awake and sitting beside a legal pad. People laughed. She remembers things you said 6 months ago. She knows how Dad takes his coffee, how Mom wants the dishwasher loaded, and which lies I tell when I'm pretending I'm okay. Her voice shifted on the last sentence. Mom lowered her eyes. Paige looked at me. I don't know what I would have done without you a lot of times. I'm glad Evan knows how lucky he is. She lifted her glass. And I hope being loved by someone who takes care of you teaches you to let him. It was a beautiful toast. It was also the first time Paige had ever acknowledged that care moved mostly in one direction between us. I stood and hugged her. She held on longer than the room required. Then one of Mom's friends asked Paige when she and Nolan had planned to marry. It was not malicious. Carol had missed the news and was wearing the open expression of someone expecting a normal answer. The room went silent so quickly, the scrape of a fork sounded violent. Paige placed her glass on the table. We're not, she said. Carol's face emptied. Oh, honey, I'm sorry. It's fine. Paige, Mom said softly. I said it's fine. She picked up her purse and walked out. Mom looked at me. I knew the look. Go after her. I glanced toward the unopened gifts, then at Camille. Stay, Camille said. I'll go. Mom's eyebrows rose. I'm her sister. You're also the person whose shower this is, Camille replied. Mom leaned closer. She'll talk to Natalie, then she can call Natalie after the party. I waited for the guilt to arrive. It did, hot and immediate. Then the restaurant door opened and Paige came back. Her eyes were damp, but her voice was steady. I forgot I drove Mom. A few people laughed because they thought she was joking. She sat beside me and took my hand beneath the table. I'm staying, she whispered. She did. That should have been proof that Paige was trying. It was proof. The problem was that trying did not erase the structure around us. It only made everyone more determined to keep her from having to try too hard. At the final bridesmaid fitting, Paige's slate blue dress hung loose across her chest and hips. She had lost enough weight that the seamstress pinched 3 inches of fabric at the waist. I can take it in, the woman said, but the bodice may not sit exactly as designed. Paige stared at herself in the mirror. It looks like a hospital curtain. You liked it in March, I said. In March I had breasts. You still have breasts. They're on sabbatical. Camille coughed into her hand to hide a laugh. The other bridesmaids had already taken their dresses home. Their gowns were the same slate blue chiffon in different cuts, a compromise Paige had originally celebrated because she said identical dresses made adult women look like backup singers. Mom stepped closer to the mirror. She shouldn't have to wear something that makes her feel awful. It can be altered, I said. Not properly, Paige said. She just said that. The seamstress looked alarmed. I said the bodice may sit differently. What about the one-shouldered dress? Mom asked. She had noticed another gown hanging near the fitting rooms. It was the same designer and nearly the same color, with a fitted waist and a soft draped neckline. Paige tried it on. It looked good, better than the first one had before the weight loss. It's $240, I said when I checked the tag. Mom lowered her voice. She's been through enough. The phrase made the price somehow mine. Paige looked at me through the mirror. I can wear the old one. She did not say it with martyrdom. That made it worse. I pictured her standing beside Camille in a dress she hated, every photograph preserving how thin she had become after Nolan. I pictured Mom watching me watch her. I'll pay for the new one, I said. No, Paige replied immediately. Nat, you already paid for the alterations. I want you comfortable. I can pay. You're still covering the bachelorette dinner. That's not the same. It's fine. The seamstress told us the dress would need to be rush-ordered and could arrive as late as the day before the rehearsal. Mom asked 3 times whether that was safe. The woman promised the store would inspect it and call the moment it arrived. Outside, Paige caught up with me near the car. You didn't have to do that. I know. I mean it. I would have worn the other dress. I know. Then why did you pay? Because Mom had looked at me as if the correct answer were already printed. Because you looked beautiful in the new one. Paige hugged me. Thank you. Over her shoulder, I saw Evan waiting beside his truck. He had come straight from work, his navy shirt marked with dust at one shoulder. He looked at the garment receipt in my hand but did not ask. The bachelorette dinner happened without cowgirl hats, party buses, or strangers named Kelsey. Camille reserved a long table at a tapas restaurant and took us to a piano bar afterward. Paige stayed for both. She danced badly, laughed loudly, and did not cry once. Near midnight, while Camille argued with the bartender about whether Piano Man counted as a request or a threat, Paige leaned against me. "I'm glad you didn't postpone this," she said. "I never planned to. Mom said you considered it. Mom considered it." Paige rolled her eyes. "She needs a hobby that doesn't involve our lives." I looked at her. "What?" "Nothing." She bumped my shoulder. "You think I don't know?" "Know what? That she's a lot. She loves us. Those things aren't opposites." For once, Paige saw the line as clearly as I did. I wanted to grab the moment and make her promise she would remember it. Instead, I ordered us water. The week of the wedding, our living room filled with boxes. There were welcome bags, table cards, ribbon, 2 pairs of shoes, and Dad's wooden card box wrapped in an old bath towel. My dress and veil stayed zipped in garment bags in the guest room. Grandma's handkerchief rested inside the small blue box with my earrings. On the morning of the rehearsal, I had just left a nail appointment with Camille when Mom called. "Where are you?" "In the parking lot. Paige's dress came in." "Great. There's a problem." I closed my eyes. What kind of problem? A hook is loose and part of the side seam looks open. Did she try it on? She's too upset. "Mom, the rehearsal starts in an hour. The shop will exchange it, but they close early. They're holding another one." Then Paige needs to go. She's already at Cedar Hollow helping us set up. "So are you. I'm doing the place cards. Your father is unloading the centerpieces. Camille and I still have to get ready." Camille stood beside my car watching my face. Mom lowered her voice. "Natalie, please. You're the only person I can count on to get this done properly." I looked at Camille. She shook her head once. I took out my keys. Camille put her hand over mine before I could open the car door. "Don't. It'll be faster if I just go. That sentence should be engraved on your tombstone. The shop is 20 minutes away. In traffic, it's 35. I can still make it. You're not even dressed. It's a rehearsal. I'm wearing this. You have a dinner after." I brought the other blouse. Camille stared at me. Her nails were painted a dark blue that matched mine, though she had complained throughout the appointment that the manicurist was judging her cuticles. "Paige can pick up her own dress. She's at the venue. Then Linda can leave the place cards alone for half an hour. If Mom goes, she'll call me 12 times from the shop. You understand that isn't an argument in your favor." I opened the door. Camille stepped back. "I'll go. You have the practice bouquet and the rings. Rings fit in cars. You also need to meet the florist. The florist has met flowers before. I'm already going." Her face hardened. "You always say that after the decision is made, like the rest of us are wasting time by caring. That's not fair. No, it isn't." She picked up her purse from the hood of my car. "I'll tell Evan. Tell him I'll be there. I think he knows how weddings work." The bridal shop was 27 minutes in the opposite direction from Cedar Hollow. I made it in 23, which was not an achievement I could mention without admitting how many yellow lights I had treated as personal challenges. The parking lot was nearly full. A delivery truck blocked half the entrance while 2 men unloaded boxes into a craft store. I parked behind a minivan, rushed inside, and gave my name to the woman at the counter. She was not the seamstress who had fitted Paige. She was young, pink-haired, and eating pretzels from a paper cup. "Oh," she said, "the exchange." "Yes." She disappeared into the back. I checked the time. 41 minutes until the rehearsal. Evan texted. "Camille says you went to get the dress." I called him instead of answering. "Hey," he said, "I'm at the shop. They're bringing it out." He was quiet. "I'll be there," I added. "Why are you doing this?" "Because it had to be picked up. It had to be picked up by Paige. She's helping set up. You're the bride. I know. Do you?" The counter woman returned carrying 2 garment bags. "Which one is the damaged dress?" I asked. She lifted the plastic on the first. The side seam had separated about an inch beneath the zipper, and one hook at the neckline hung by a thread. That's it? We offered to repair it, she said. Her mother requested the exchange. How long would the repair take? 10 minutes. I looked at my phone. You said you're holding another one. We are. We just need her to try it on before we finalize the exchange. She's not here. The woman glanced at the empty space beside me. I explained that over the phone. My mother didn't mention it. Technically, it's the same size, so it should be fine. But rush garments can vary. Can I take both? I'd need to charge you for the second dress. How much? She told me. It was more than the first dress because of the rush fee, as though urgency were a fabric. Repair this one. Are you sure? Yes. Please. I paced between displays of rhinestone belts while she carried the dress to the back. A woman trying on a veil watched me make 3 laps, then moved closer to the mirror as if I might steal it. Evan was still on the line. The dress can be fixed, I told him. I heard. It's 10 minutes. It's been 10 months. Please don't do this right now. When should I do it? After the rehearsal. Will there be another dress emergency after the rehearsal? I don't know, Evan. Maybe the napkins will lose weight and need alterations. The woman in the veil laughed before she could stop herself. Evan did not. I'm not mad about the dress, he said. I know. I'll see you here. He ended the call. The repair took 18 minutes. The woman returned with the seam closed and the hook secured. She had steamed the fabric near the zipper and taped a small bag of spare thread to the hanger. It's perfectly wearable, she said. Thank you. Tell her not to pull it over her head. She needs to use the zipper. I paid the repair charge, signed the receipt, and carried the dress outside. There were 20 minutes until the rehearsal. My navigation app predicted 34. I called Mom from the highway. I have it. Oh, thank God. Is it fixed? Yes. Did you get the new one? They repaired this one, but I asked for the exchange. They needed Paige there to try it on. Nobody told me that. They said they did. Well, I was trying to handle 6 things. Mom, tell Dana I'm running late. A pause. How late? The app says 15 minutes. Everyone's already here. I know. The restaurant is holding our table for 7. I know. She may have to start blocking without you. My grip tightened on the wheel. It's my rehearsal. She can do the wedding party first. That's fine. Your father and I can practice our entrance. Fine. And Paige can stand in for spacing. I thought I had misheard her over the road noise. No, it's just so Dana knows where everyone goes. No, Mom, she's the same general height. I said no. Then hurry. The call ended. Traffic slowed beside an exit where orange barrels reduced 2 lanes to 1. I watched the estimated arrival move from 5:48 to 5:52, then 5:55. Camille sent a message. Your mother is trying to start. I used voice to text. Tell her not to. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then returned. I did. At Cedar Hollow, Dana had arranged the wedding party beneath the covered patio while she reviewed the order of entrance. She was a compact woman with silver-framed glasses, a clipboard, and the strained patience of someone who had been hired to coordinate chairs but was now negotiating a hereditary conflict. I learned the details later from Camille. Mom asked Dana to begin with the attendance. Dana agreed. They practiced walking in pairs. Evan waited near the arbor while Dad checked his watch. Then Dana said she needed Natalie for the handoff and positioning. She'll be here any minute, Evan said. Mom checked her phone. She's still 15 minutes away. We'll wait. The dinner reservation is at 7, Dad said. We'll still eat. Dana suggested practicing the recessional. Mom insisted it would make more sense to block the bride's entrance first. Paige was standing near the first row in her cream rehearsal dinner dress. She had brought the practice bouquet from the hotel and placed it on a chair. Mom picked it up. Paige can mark the spot. Camille said, That's a bad idea. It's a person standing on grass. It's Natalie's place. It is not a sacred patch of lawn. Paige hesitated. That mattered to me later. Not enough, but some. I don't need to, she said. Mom held out the bouquet. We're not making this into something. Dad offered his arm. Paige looked toward Evan. It's just blocking. Evan stepped away from the arbor. I pulled into the gravel lot 7 minutes later. I left the garment bag in the car, changed my mind, and went back for it because it had become the reason I had missed everything else. The lodge doors were propped open. I crossed the lobby and heard my father's voice before I reached the lawn. We're blocking a ceremony. It's her ceremony, Evan answered. I stepped into the doorway. Paige stood under the arbor holding my bouquet. Dad was beside her with his arm bent. Mom adjusted the back of Paige's cream dress as if the sight were not strange enough on its own. Dana noticed me. Then Evan did. Mom turned last. There she is, she said, with relief sharp enough to sound like accusation. I did not move. Paige lowered the bouquet. Nat. Evan walked toward me. Mom looked at her watch. We can still get through everything if we start now. What were you doing? I asked. Nothing, Paige said. We were waiting. You were under the arbor, for spacing, with my bouquet. Mom exhaled. It is a bunch of grocery store roses. Camille stepped out from beneath the patio. They're her grocery store roses. Would everybody please stop being dramatic? Dad said. Evan reached me and took the garment bag from my arm. The plastic had made the same red groove across my fingers that it always did when I carried too much, without changing hands. Dana cleared her throat. We can begin whenever Natalie is ready. She isn't ready because everyone is staring at her, Mom said. Let's reset. I looked at Paige. Why did you do it? Her face changed. Mom asked me. I said no, I didn't know that. I told her no on the phone. Mom cut in. I thought once you arrived, you'd understand it was practical. Practical. We had 40 people standing around. There are 18 people here, Camille said. Not the point. Paige held the bouquet toward me. I'm sorry. I did not take it. Her eyes filled. Mom saw the tears and stepped between us so naturally she might have rehearsed it. Evan embarrassed her in front of everyone, she said. I looked at him. What did you say? He did not glance at my parents for permission or soften his voice to make the truth easier to receive. I said I wasn't rehearsing marrying Paige. I said nothing would begin without you. Mom made a frustrated sound, which made it seem as if we were replacing Natalie. You were. We were saving time. I drove across town for her dress. No one forced you, Dad said. The words struck harder because he sounded tired rather than cruel. No, I said. You just made sure it would be my fault if I didn't. Dad's mouth opened. Paige started crying. Every muscle in my body recognized the next task. Go to her. Lower my voice. Say I knew she had not meant it. Tell everyone we were overtired. Take the bouquet, finish the rehearsal, arrive at dinner smiling. Evan did not tell me what to do. He held Paige's dress in one hand and asked, Do you want to stay? Mom stared at him. Of course she's staying. I looked at the arbor, then at my father's waiting arm. No, I said. Mom's face went still. Natalie, I don't want to stay. I turned before Paige could hand me the bouquet. Evan followed. Behind us, Mom called my name once, then again with the tone she used when I had failed to hear an instruction. I kept walking. The lodge doors closed slowly, cutting off the sound before she could decide whether to ask me to come back or order me to. Camille caught up with us halfway across the parking lot. Natalie. I stopped. She was carrying my bouquet in one hand and her purse in the other. The ivory ribbon trailed near the gravel. I told Dana the wedding is still happening, she said. I assumed. It is. Okay. She held out the bouquet. I stared at it. I don't want that. It didn't do anything. I know. It's still yours. I took it. Camille hugged me carefully, flowers trapped between us. Over her shoulder, I saw Dad come through the lodge doors. He stood beneath the porch light but did not call to me. Do you want me to come with you? Camille asked. No. Please stay and help Dana. Your mother may throw me into the fireplace. Dad checked. He fits. She squeezed my arm and walked back toward the lodge. Evan opened the passenger door of his truck. I climbed in with the bouquet on my lap. He laid Paige's garment bag across the back seat, shut my door, and went around without looking toward the porch. Dad was still standing there when we pulled away. My phone began vibrating before we reached the highway. Mom, then Paige, then Mom again. Dad sent a text. Please come back. We can fix this. I turned the phone face down in the cup holder. You can answer them, Evan said. I know. I'm not asking you not to. I know. He drove toward the hotel. His hands were steady on the wheel, but a muscle moved in his cheek every few seconds. You're angry, I said. Yes. At them or me? Yes. I looked out the window. That's honest. You asked. The hotel was 12 minutes from Cedar Hollow, a rectangular brick building beside a chain steakhouse. Half our out-of-town guests were staying there. We entered through a side door because I could not bear the lobby. Our room smelled faintly of lemon cleaner and someone else's cologne. My overnight bag sat open on the luggage rack. The blouse I had planned to wear to dinner hung in the closet beside Evan's suit. He placed Paige's dress over the desk chair. Not there, I said. He picked it up again. I don't know why. Just not where I can see it. He put it in the closet behind my blouse and closed the door. My phone continued vibrating. You should tell Camille we're not going to dinner, I said. She knows. How? I have pattern recognition. I sat on the edge of the bed with the bouquet still in my hands. One rose had bent near the head. I tried to straighten it and nearly snapped the stem. Evan took the bouquet and set it in the water glass beside the television. What do you want to eat? I'm not hungry. You haven't eaten since breakfast. I had half a granola bar. That was at 10. I don't want room service chicken fingers while my entire family discusses whether I've lost my mind. What kind of food would improve that? Something with wine. He ordered a bottle of red wine, a club sandwich, and the chicken fingers anyway. While we waited, he took off his boots and sat in the desk chair. I stayed on the bed. The space between us felt formal, like we had been called into a meeting neither of us wanted to lead. I know I shouldn't have gone for the dress, I said. That isn't the whole problem. I was trying to help. I know. You keep saying that. Because you keep explaining the part I already understand. I picked at the edge of the comforter. When Dad had his knee replaced, Mom called me every morning at 6. She said Paige couldn't help because she had started a new job. Evan waited. I took 2 weeks of vacation. I made freezer meals. I drove him to physical therapy and sat in the parking lot doing work on my laptop. Paige came over once with a plant. I remember the plant. It died. I remember that too. When I got promoted, they wanted to take me to dinner. Paige called from her apartment because she and Nolan had their first serious fight. Mom said we should reschedule. Did you? I went over and helped Paige pack a bag. She didn't leave him. We ate the celebration cake 4 days later, after Dad had already cut a piece. Evan leaned forward, elbows on his knees. At graduation, she disappeared because of the picture her boyfriend posted. We changed restaurants because Mom said the Italian place was too romantic. We ate at a sports bar. I was still wearing my gown. You told me about that. I told you it was funny. It wasn't? It was a little funny. Dad got wing sauce on his tie. A laugh came out of me and turned into a sob. I covered my face. Evan crossed the space between us. He sat beside me but did not pull me against him until I leaned first. They love me, I said into his shirt. I know. Dad built the card box. I know. Mom drove 2 hours for those vases. I know. That's what makes me feel crazy. You don't have to prove they're monsters before you're allowed to be hurt. A knock sounded at the door. I laughed wetly. If that's my mother, I'm going out the window. We're on the 3rd floor. Then I'll finally have a problem she can't assign me to fix. It was room service. Evan tipped the waiter, poured wine into 2 thick hotel glasses, and placed the sandwich between us on the bed. I ate half without noticing. My mother thinks you're pulling me away from them, I said. Are you going to let her make me the reason? What does that mean? It means tomorrow we get married, and I need to know whether our marriage will always be another thing you trade away in pieces so nobody gets upset. I set down my glass. That's a cruel thing to say tonight. I know. Then why say it? Because tonight your family tried to hold our wedding rehearsal with your sister standing in for you, and part of you is still wondering whether leaving was rude. I wanted to deny it. I could not. He looked exhausted rather than angry now. I'm not asking you to stop loving them. I'm scared there won't be any boundary between what they need and what belongs to us. You think I'll choose them over you. I think you'll call it helping until neither of us is allowed to say what it costs. My phone vibrated again. I picked it up. There were 14 messages. Mom started with, "Where are you?" and progressed. "Through?" "Everyone is concerned. Your aunt flew in for this. And avoiding us is not a mature way to begin a marriage." Dad had sent only the one message. Paige had sent 5. "I'm sorry. I didn't know you told her no. I should have refused anyway. Mom says Evan was awful to me." He wasn't. "Please don't hate me." The last message broke something open in me because I did not hate her. Hating Paige would have given me somewhere simple to put the pain. I typed, "I don't hate you. I need tonight." She answered immediately. "Okay." Mom called again. I silenced the phone. A message appeared a minute later. "Your father and I cannot participate tomorrow unless Evan apologizes to Paige and you come talk to us tonight. We will not pretend this behavior is acceptable." I read it twice. Then I handed the phone to Evan. He read it and returned it without speaking. "What should I say? What do you want to say?" "I asked you, and I'm not going to answer for you." I hated him for that almost as much as I loved him. I did not respond that night. I woke before 6 with the television still on and Evan asleep above the covers beside me. My wine glass sat on the nightstand. The bouquet had sagged in its water glass, the bent rose leaning away from the others. Mom's message remained on my screen. I thought about walking into Cedar Hollow on Dad's arm. I thought about Mom tying Grandma's handkerchief around my bouquet. I had pictured those moments for months. Then I pictured arriving late to my own rehearsal and seeing them perform the shape of it with Paige. At 6:17, I called Mom. She answered on the first ring. "Where are you?" "At the hotel. We were worried sick." I told Paige I needed the night. "You didn't tell me. You gave me an ultimatum. I set a boundary." The borrowed language nearly made me laugh. Evan isn't apologizing. Mom inhaled sharply. "Then your father and I won't be part of the ceremony. I hope you come, but it will happen either way." Silence. What does that mean? It means Dad isn't walking me down the aisle. In the background, I heard a chair scrape. "Natalie?" Dad said. "Mom must have put the call on speaker. I'm walking alone," I continued. "You'll both be seated as guests if you come." "You're punishing us," Mom said. "I'm changing the plan. The morning of your wedding. You changed the plan yesterday while I was gone." "That was a rehearsal." "Yes." Dad's voice was low. "You really don't want me beside you?" The question almost ended me. "I wanted you beside me yesterday. I was trying to keep things moving." "I know. I didn't think you'd see it this way. That's the problem." Mom began crying. Dad said my name again, but there was nothing else I could say without taking the boundary apart to prove it had not been built to hurt them. "I'll tell Dana to reserve your seats," I said. "The ceremony starts at 4. I ended the call. My hand shook so badly I dropped the phone onto the carpet. Evan sat up. "Are you okay?" "No. Was that the right thing?" "I don't know." He got out of bed and crouched to pick up my phone. "You don't have to know yet." I called Dana next. Her voice was brisk and unsurprised. She removed Dad from the processional, moved my parents' seats to the second row so they would not need a formal entrance, and assigned Camille the rings and bouquet. "I'm sorry," I said. "For what? For changing everything." "You changed 3 lines on a clipboard. That was the first kindness of the morning that did not ask me to surrender anything in return." Paige came to the hotel at 9 carrying coffee and wearing no makeup. "I brought your dress," I said. "I know, it's in the closet. I'm not here for the dress." She stood just inside the room, clutching the cardboard drink carrier. "I told Mom I shouldn't be in the bridal suite." "You shouldn't." Her face tightened. "I understand. Do you?" "I think so. I need Camille with me today. I need the room to feel safe. I never wanted you to feel unsafe. You stood in my place after I said no." She looked down at the coffees. "I'm sorry, I believe you. But I can't be your maid of honor." "No." She nodded once. "Can I still come?" "Yes." "As a guest?" "As my sister." Her eyes filled. She set the coffees on the desk before they spilled, then left without asking me to comfort her. At 3:55, I stood behind the closed lodge doors in my ivory dress. Grandma's handkerchief was wrapped around the grocery store roses. Camille held the rings. Through the narrow window, I saw Mom and Dad enter together and take their seats in the second row. Dad looked back toward the doors. For the first time in my life, I did not mistake being expected for being awaited. Dana opened the doors. The late afternoon light hit the ivory crepe of my dress and made me look brighter than I felt. Everyone stood. Chairs scraped against the lawn in uneven waves, and the string quartet moved into the opening notes we had chosen months earlier. Dad remained turned toward me. For one dangerous second, I imagined walking to the second row and offering my arm. I could see exactly how it would happen. His face would soften. Mom would cry. The guests would assume the delay had been planned. By the time I reached Evan, everyone would be comfortable again. Then Dad glanced at Paige. It was brief. He was checking on her because she was standing beside him in the dark green dress she had worn to my shower. Her hands clasped in front of her. She looked pale and frightened. Mom touched Paige's wrist. Even now, with me alone at the end of the aisle, their first instinct was to make sure she could bear it. I stepped forward. Walking alone was not graceful. My bouquet trembled. The heel of my right shoe sank into soft ground, and I had to shorten one step to free it. Halfway down the aisle, a gust lifted my veil and pushed it across my mouth. Someone laughed gently. I pulled it away and kept going. Evan was smiling by then. Not the broad picture smile he had practiced under protest, but the private one that tilted more on the left. When I reached him, he whispered, "You have grass on your shoe. Romance is alive. Do you want me to get it?" "No." Dana waited until we were both facing forward, then nodded to the officiant. I remember pieces of the ceremony rather than the whole thing. The leaves moving behind the arbor. Camille's thumb rubbing the edge of my ring before she handed it to Evan. My mother crying without making a sound. Dad staring down at his folded hands. Evan's voice broke during his vows when he promised to protect the life we made together. He stopped, cleared his throat, and tried again. I had written mine on a card, but when I looked at him, the sentences seemed too polished for the morning we had survived. "I promise I won't make you guess whether I'm with you," I said. His eyes changed. The officiant waited, probably expecting more, and I promised to stop pretending your coffee is drinkable. Laughter moved through the chairs. Evan nodded solemnly. "That's fair." After we kissed, the quartet played too early, then stopped, then began again. Camille cried hard enough to lose an eyelash. Dana waved us up the aisle with the relieved efficiency of an air traffic controller clearing a damaged plane. At the lodge doors, Evan turned to me. "Still want to marry me?" "A little late to check." "I was busy earlier. You made a whole speech. I didn't sign anything." Dana appeared behind him holding the marriage license folder. "You did, actually." At cocktail hour, guests surrounded us before I could decide whether I wanted to be surrounded. Aunt Diane hugged me and whispered, "I'm proud of you," in a tone that suggested she knew more than Mom had intended to share. One of Evan's electrician friends asked whether walking alone was a modern bride thing, and I said it was a me thing. Nobody demanded the full story. That surprised me. My parents stayed near the fireplace. Paige stood with them for a while, then moved away when Mom began speaking urgently into her ear. She joined Camille at the bar and asked for club soda. I watched all three of them while pretending to listen to Dad's cousin explain why outdoor weddings were risky. Evan touched my back. "Do you want to go over there?" "No." "You're allowed." "I know." That was becoming our phrase for freedom neither of us trusted yet. The lodge had transformed while we were outside. Mom's vintage glass vases lined the long tables, each filled with loose arrangements of white roses, eucalyptus, and dark blue thistle. Dad's card box sat beside the guest book. He had polished it again. The maple leaves around our initials looked darker and more even than they had at brunch. I ran my hand across the lid. Camille came up beside me. He brought sandpaper this morning. Of course he did. He fixed the E. It still looks like a comb. It looks like a better comb. The knowledge that Dad had worked on the box after threatening not to come pressed against the part of me that wanted every person to be one thing at a time. Loving or cruel, loyal or selfish, safe or unsafe. Dad was none of those things alone. Neither was I. Dana called everyone into the dining room. The wedding party entered without Paige, though the DJ still had her name on his sheet. When he announced Maid of Honor Paige Mercer, Camille stepped through the doorway, held up 2 fingers, and shouted, "Still me!" People laughed. The DJ apologized into the microphone. I saw Mom wince. Dinner was buffet style. Nobody waited for Trent to locate table 9. Evan's co-workers returned with plates stacked high enough to prove plated service would have bankrupted us. Mom waved at me while I was eating. At first I thought she wanted my attention. Then she pointed toward the back of the room where one of the place cards had fallen beneath a table. I looked at it. She pointed again. I cut another piece of brisket. Her eyebrows lifted. The server nearest the table noticed the card, picked it up, and placed it beside the correct plate. Nothing collapsed. A few minutes later, Dad came to our table. "Could I talk to you?" Evan started to stand. "Just Natalie," Dad said. I followed him toward the stone fireplace. He had changed into the navy suit Mom called his funeral suit. It did not look like a funeral suit. It looked like my father wearing clothes he already owned. "You looked beautiful," he said. "Thank you. I'm glad you didn't trip." I came close. I saw. We stood beside the empty fireplace where he had checked the scale months earlier. "The DJ asked me about the dance," he said. I had removed the father-daughter dance from the schedule during my morning call with Dana. I had not told Dad directly. "It's not happening." He nodded slowly. "I figured. I should have told you." "Probably. I didn't know if you were coming." "That's fair." The ease of his answer made me angrier than an argument would have. "You let Mom threaten not to come. I told her it was a mistake." "After she sent it?" "Yes." "Did you tell her that?" He looked toward Mom. She sat at a table near the dance floor, watching us. "I told her we'd regret missing the wedding. That isn't the same thing." "No. Why didn't you call me?" "I did call you. To ask us to come back and fix it." His mouth tightened. "I didn't think standing there for 5 minutes was replacing you. You weren't standing there. Paige was. She didn't ask to be. She still did it." He rubbed one hand over his tie. "I shouldn't have gone along with it. No, I'm sorry." The apology was quiet and late and real. My chest hurt. "You built the card box. That isn't an apology." "I know." He looked older beneath the lodge lights. "Can I still have a dance with you?" he asked. "Not announced. Later." Every part of me wanted to reward him for asking gently. "I can't tonight." His eyes closed for half a second. "All right, I love you. I love you too." He returned to his table before I did. Our first dance began 20 minutes later. Evan counted under his breath until I stepped on his shoe. "You said stop anticipating," I whispered. "You're moving unpredictably. Adapt." He did. By the second verse, I stopped watching the room. My hand rested against his shoulder. His palm was warm at my back. When he turned me, my skirt moved around my ankles in a slow ivory circle. We were not especially good. We were together. Camille's toast was funny and brief. She described my management style as aggressive preparedness, wrapped in a cardigan, and told Evan that loving me meant occasionally taking the clipboard from my hand before I assigned myself a task no one had requested. Evan raised his glass toward her. Mom did not. The best man followed with a story about Evan rewiring a restaurant during a snowstorm. Then the DJ announced dinner service would resume, and the microphone was put away. Dad's handwritten toast remained folded in his jacket pocket. I knew because I saw the edge when he reached for his glasses. Mom approached me near the cake table. "Your father prepared something." "I know. You could let him say it privately. He can tell me later. He may not want to later." I looked at her. "Is that supposed to scare me?" Her face changed. "No." "Then don't use it that way. I'm trying to salvage some part of tonight for him. For him, he's devastated. I'm standing in my wedding dress, Mom, and everything is beautiful, as if beauty canceled harm, as if I could not be devastated while the flowers sat correctly in their vases." Paige appeared beside us. "Mom, leave her alone." Mom turned. "This is between me and Natalie." "No, it isn't." Paige's voice shook, but she stayed. "You keep acting like she caused this. I am trying to hold the family together. You're trying to make her hold it." Mom stared at her. Paige looked at me. "Can we talk?" I nodded, and we stepped outside onto the covered patio. The night had turned cold. Paige crossed her arms over her green dress. "I didn't wear the replacement," she said. I noticed. I couldn't. "It's still at the hotel. I'll pay you back. I don't care about the money." "I know. I think I need to." We stood near the stacked ceremony chairs. Beyond the lawn, the arbor was a dark outline against the trees. "I like standing there," she said. The confession landed without warning. I looked at her. Not because of Evan. God, not because of that. For a second, Dad was walking me down an aisle. Mom was fixing my dress and everyone was waiting. It felt like I got back the thing I lost. "You took mine." "I know." Her eyes filled, but she did not look away. "I knew it was wrong before you came in. I stayed anyway. I had wanted that honesty. I hated receiving it. I can't forgive you tonight. I know. Stop saying you know." A wet laugh escaped her. "Okay, I love you. I love you too. That doesn't fix it. No." Through the windows, the DJ started a fast song. Guests moved toward the dance floor. Mom remained beside the cake table looking outside at us. Dad sat alone with his folded toast still in his pocket. Paige wiped beneath her eyes. "You should go dance. So should you. Am I allowed? You don't need my permission to dance." She gave me a sad smile. "That may be the first thing in this family I don't need your permission to fix." We went back inside separately. Near the end of the night, the photographer asked for one final family picture. Mom stood beside Dad. Paige stood beside her. I took my place on Dad's other side, and Evan stood next to me. Nobody rearranged us. The photographer raised her camera. "Closer," she said. For once, none of us moved. The photographer waited another second, then lowered the camera slightly. "Everybody hates each other by the end of a wedding," she said. "You're doing great." Dad laughed first. The sound loosened something. Paige leaned toward Mom. Evan's arm settled more firmly around my waist. I did not move closer to Dad, but when the photographer lifted the camera again, none of us looked angry. The flash went off. "Perfect," she said, which was her job rather than the truth. By 11, the lodge smelled like extinguished candles, spilled wine, and brisket. Guests carried centerpieces to their cars, despite Mom insisting the vintage vases were not favors. Dad rescued 3 from a table near the door and packed them into an empty liquor box. Camille helped me change into flats in the bridal suite. "I'm taking the card box," she said. "Dad can take it. Your father is conducting a vase recovery operation. I'll get it tomorrow. It's full of checks. Then definitely give it to Dad. He has a known workshop." She tied my shoes tighter than necessary. "You're allowed to go to the hotel and forget these people exist for 8 hours. I don't want to forget they exist." "Fine. Imagine they exist quietly." When we stepped into the lobby, Mom and Dad were gone. They had not said goodbye. Paige waited near the entrance with her arms folded against the draft. "I took the bridesmaid dress out of your hotel room," she said. "How did you get in?" Camille gave me the key. Camille lifted one shoulder. "It's in Mom's car," Paige continued. "I'll return it. It was altered. Then I'll sell it or wear it to the grocery store. I'm not making you deal with it." I nodded. She glanced at Evan, then back at me. "Have a good honeymoon." "Thank you. I mean it." "I know." She winced. "Sorry, you told me to stop saying that. I think I said it first. We're very alike when we're annoying. That is not the lesson I want tonight." She hugged me cautiously, as if waiting for a signal. I put both arms around her. Mom's sedan pulled up beneath the lodge lights. Dad leaned over and opened the passenger door from inside. Paige got in. Nobody waved as they drove away. Our wedding night happened in the same hotel room where I had eaten chicken fingers and considered escaping through a third-floor window. Housekeeping had changed the sheets and placed 2 towel swans on the bed. One swan had collapsed at the neck. Evan picked it up. "Bad omen?" "It's a towel." "That's not what you said about the dishwasher. I never said the dishwasher was an omen. You looked at it with spiritual concern." He set the swan upright and it fell again. "Persistent," I said, "like your mother." I looked at him. "Too soon?" "By several hours." He nodded. "Noted." We sat on the bed and ate 2 slices of wedding cake with plastic forks. My dress hung from the curtain rod. There was grass on the hem and a gray mark where someone had stepped on the train. I had expected to feel transformed after marriage. Instead, I felt exhausted, overfed, and relieved that my shoes were off. Evan put down his plate. "You okay? I got married. You did. My parents may never speak to me again." "They will." "How do you know?" "Linda left 6 vases at the venue. She'll need access to our vehicle." I laughed. Then I cried. He held me without offering a solution. That was harder for him than it looked. We left for our honeymoon the next afternoon. We had rented a cabin near Lake Superior for 6 nights because every tropical resort we priced seemed to charge extra for being warm. The cabin had a gas fireplace, a porch overlooking dark water, and a kitchen stocked with 1 dull knife and 14 wine glasses. My phone lost service 20 minutes before we arrived. I held it near the windshield. 1 bar. "Put it down," Evan said. "Dad might call." He might. What if something happened? Then the state of Minnesota has phones. We were still in Wisconsin, but I understood his point. I switched the phone off. The first day I slept until 10. The second, we hiked along the shoreline and got lost because Evan insisted a trail marker was more of a suggestion. The third, rain trapped us inside, where we played cards and argued over whether soup could be eaten from wine glasses. It could. I kept expecting the quiet to feel selfish. Instead, it felt like hearing had returned after a loud concert. When my phone found service during a drive into town, messages arrived in a rush. Mom had sent a photograph of the damaged bridesmaid dress folded across her bed. The shop says it can't be returned after alterations. Then, "Your father says leave it alone." Paige transferred the money for it. Then, "I hope you're enjoying yourself." Dad sent a picture of our wooden card box on his workbench with the corrected E. Paige sent nothing. I replied to Dad. "It looks beautiful. Thank you." I stared at Mom's messages, then locked the phone. "You don't have to respond," Evan said. "I wasn't going to. I didn't say you were. You were watching. I'm sitting beside you in a truck. You have judgmental peripheral vision." He pulled into a cafe parking lot. "I married into this voluntarily. You signed the document. Dana has proof." We returned home with dirty laundry, 3 smooth stones from the lake, and a small ceramic mug that leaked the first time Evan used it. The house smelled stale. Wedding cards covered the dining table because Camille had delivered the box while we were gone. Mom had mailed us a formal thank you card. Inside, she had written, "It was a beautiful wedding. We hope you are happy. No love. No mom and dad." Just their first names beneath the printed message. Evan read it and set it down. "She used the good stationery," I said. "Should I be intimidated? She saves that for condolence notes and people she doesn't trust. Which are we? I'll let you know." Dad called that evening. "Did you get the card?" "Yes." "Your mother wasn't sure if she should send it. She attended the wedding." "I know." People usually don't mail thank you notes to the bride for inviting them. I mentioned that. He sounded tired. How was the lake? Cold. Beautiful. Any fishing? No. Then what did Evan do? I smiled despite myself. He got us lost. That sounds right. A pause opened. I still have the toast, he said. I know, I could mail it. You could tell me sometime. All right, not tonight. I understand. The phrase did not feel like understanding, but he did not push. Mom called 2 days later while I was folding towels. I nearly let it go. Then I answered because refusing every call would have made the phone another form of work. Hi. Hello. We sounded like two people confirming a dental appointment. Did you enjoy the honeymoon? She asked. Yes. I'm glad. I waited. She sighed. I don't know how to do this with you. Do what? Talk without worrying that every word will be used against me. I haven't used anything against you. You removed us from the ceremony. You threatened not to come. Because Evan humiliated your sister. Paige said he didn't. Paige is blaming herself for everything. She stood in my place for 5 minutes after I said no. I didn't hear you say no. I said it to you. That is not the same as saying it to her. The towel in my hands tightened into a rope. Did you tell Paige to stand there before you knew I'd be late? Mom went silent. What kind of question is that? A specific one. We had discussed using someone for spacing. That is standard. Did you suggest Paige? I don't remember the exact sequence. She remembered the quantities of table linens from events held 20 years ago. She remembered who had failed to send condolence flowers when Grandma died. Sequence was one of her favorite possessions. Okay, I said. Don't do that. Do what? Say, okay, like you've reached a verdict. I'm doing laundry. Your tone has completely changed since you met Evan. I looked toward the kitchen. He was kneeling beside the dishwasher with the leaking mug on the floor, trying to determine whether it could be sealed. Evan didn't make me leave the rehearsal. He asked whether you wanted to stay in front of everybody. Yes. He knew what answer you would give. I didn't. Mom's voice softened. I miss you. It would have been easier if she had stayed angry. I miss you too. Then why are you doing this? Doing what? Keeping us at a distance. Because every time I let you close, you tell me the distance is Evan's fault. He has never liked us. That isn't true. He stood there refusing to cooperate over something harmless. No, Mom. He was the first person who refused to keep going while I was being replaced. She inhaled. You were not replaced. Then why did the rehearsal continue without me? It didn't continue. He stopped it. Exactly. She ended the call soon after that, saying she had groceries in the car. It was raining outside, but I did not mention it. For years, family life resumed because I resumed it. I called after arguments. I sent reminders about birthdays and appointments. I offered dates for dinners before anyone had to ask whether I was still upset. This time, I did none of those things. The silence lasted until Mom called about Thanksgiving. I told Diane you'd host, she said. I was standing in the grocery aisle comparing 2 brands of pasta sauce. You told her what? You have the largest dining room now. Our table seats 6. We can bring the folding table. Why would I host? Because I've done it for 29 years. You like doing it. I like having everyone together. That doesn't mean I enjoy roasting a turkey at 5 in the morning. You don't have to. Exactly. You can. A jar slipped in someone's cart nearby and struck the metal basket with a clang. I'm spending Thanksgiving with Evan's parents. Mom did not answer. They invited us to their place, I added. You already decided? Yes. Without asking what we were doing? You just told me what I was doing. I assumed you would want your first married holiday with your family. Evan is my family. You know what I mean? I did. That was the problem. I'm not hosting. So Diane and everyone else can just make other plans? You invited them. You can tell them. Her voice cooled. This is about the rehearsal. This is about Thanksgiving. You're really going to punish us through the holidays? I'm buying pasta sauce, Mom. What is that supposed to mean? It means I'm not having the argument you brought to the grocery store. I put the less expensive jar in my cart. I love you. I'm not hosting. I'll talk to you later. I ended the call before she could assign me the task of making my refusal comfortable. I stood beside my cart for several seconds after the call ended, waiting for guilt to make me dial her back. It arrived. I did not. At home, Evan unpacked groceries while I told him what happened. He held up the 2 jars of sauce. You bought the store brand. I was emotionally compromised. It has corn syrup. Your body has survived gas station hot dogs. Those are regulated. By whom? He turned the jar around, searching for evidence of oversight. Are we still going to your parents? I asked. Unless you want to host 12 people and roast a turkey at dawn, I'd rather eat corn syrup. His parents, Sharon and Mike, lived outside Green Bay in a ranch house with a sunroom that was always either too hot or too cold. Sharon had invited us before the wedding and told me to bring nothing. I had offered a side dish, dessert, wine, and chairs. She refused all 4. Bring Evan, she said. He never returns my storage containers. On Thanksgiving morning, I woke at 6:30 with the conviction that something needed chopping. Nothing did. I lay beside Evan, listening to him breathe until my phone lit on the nightstand. Mom had sent a photograph of an uncooked turkey. Does this look completely thawed to you? I enlarged the picture as if visual inspection could determine the temperature inside poultry. Another message arrived. Paige says it's fine. Then, the breast feels cold. I typed, it should be cold. I deleted it. At 7:14, Paige called. I answered in a whisper. What happened? Why are you whispering? Evan's asleep. You're not even here? I told Mom we were going to Green Bay. She said you might stop by first. Green Bay is 2 hours away. I know that. She apparently thinks marriage came with teleportation. In the background, a cabinet slammed. What's wrong with the turkey? I asked. It's a turkey. It's dead and enormous. Is it thawed? How would I know? Reach inside and see if there are ice crystals. A pause. I'm not reaching inside it. Then let Mom do it. She says her hands are too small. That's not a turkey limitation. Paige lowered her voice. Aunt Diane is bringing 2 extra people. Dad can't find the folding chairs, and Mom says the stuffing has to be started before 8. What do you need from me? I need to know what you usually do. The answer formed automatically. Drive over, find the chairs, inspect the turkey, make the stuffing, move Mom away from the stove before they said something unforgivable over celery. Instead, I said, I usually get overwhelmed and do everything myself. That isn't instructions. It's not a good system. Nat, you can buy stuffing. Mom shouted something from across the kitchen. Paige answered, she says absolutely not. Then she can make it. You're enjoying this. I'm really not. You sound calm. Those aren't the same. There was another crash, followed by Dad saying, it's plastic. Paige exhaled. Fine. Go back to sleep. I can text you the turkey temperature. I have the internet. She ended the call. I stared at the ceiling. Evan opened one eye. Did the nation lose a turkey? They'll be fine. Are you telling me or yourself? Both. At Sharon and Mike's, the turkey was dry. Nobody died. Sharon served canned cranberry sauce in the shape of the can and argued with Mike about whether the electric knife needed sharpening. Mike said electricity was the sharpener. Evan said that was not how blades worked. They discussed it for 10 minutes without anyone crying or leaving the room. I kept rising to help. Sharon pushed me back into my chair the first 2 times. On the third, she handed me a bowl of rolls. There. You're contributing. Should I warm them? No. Cover them? With what? I don't know. A towel? She looked at me. Why are you trying to manage bread? I sat down. After dinner, Mike fell asleep in the recliner with a football game playing. Sharon took 1 plate of pie to the sunroom and ate it before cleaning anything. The kitchen will still be dirty in 20 minutes, she said. The idea felt reckless and luxurious. My phone stayed face down in my purse. When I checked it that evening, Mom had sent nothing after the turkey photograph. Dad sent a picture of the finished table. The folding table ran through the dining room and into the living room. The vintage vases from our wedding held grocery store carnations. Paige stood at the far end holding a wine bottle. Her hair was tied up, and there was a streak of flour across her shirt. The turkey looked properly cooked. I zoomed in before I could stop myself. Evan leaned over my shoulder. "Is it raw?" "No." "You sound disappointed." "I'm relieved." That's allowed. Mom called 2 days later. "Everything went well," she said. "I'm glad. Your sister was a tremendous help." "Good. She did the stuffing." "From scratch?" "Yes." "Then she's more powerful than either of us knew." Mom did not laugh. "Diane asked where you were. I'm sure you told her. I said you chose to spend the holiday elsewhere." "Accurate." She found it strange. Diane brought 2 people without asking. Her standards are flexible. That's unkind. Was dinner good? It was fine. Then I'm glad. Mom waited for me to offer Christmas. I did not. Dad's right knee began bothering him badly the following week. It was not the knee he had replaced. After an appointment and several scans, his doctor scheduled an outpatient procedure, followed by physical therapy. Nothing was dangerous, but he would not be able to drive for a while. Mom called me from the clinic parking lot. "The procedure is Friday," she said. "Physical therapy starts Monday. I can take him Friday. We'll need help beyond Friday. I can also do Tuesday afternoon." "That's all? I have work. You took time last time. I used most of my vacation. You said you have days left. They're already scheduled. For what?" "My life." She went silent. "I don't understand this version of you," she said. "This version is giving you 2 days. Paige has travel next week. Then she can tell you what she can do. She's barely back on her feet. It's been 4 months. There's no expiration date on grief. There's also no reason Dad's physical therapy belongs to me. He is your father, and Paige's." Mom ended the call after saying she would figure something out, the same phrase I had used for years when everyone knew figuring it out meant I would do it. I took Dad to the procedure on Friday. Mom came with us, though she spent the entire morning asking the nurses questions Dad had already answered. Afterward, while Dad was groggy, he complimented my coat 6 times and told the nurse I had been a very practical bride. Mom frowned. I laughed so loudly the nurse checked whether I was all right. Dad slept during the drive home. Mom sat in the back seat beside him, holding the packet of discharge instructions. "You missed the turn," she said. "I'm taking Mason instead of Birch. Birch is faster. There's construction. You could have gone around it." I looked at her in the mirror. She closed the instruction packet. "Thank you for doing this." "You're welcome." On Tuesday, I drove Dad to his first physical therapy appointment. He used a cane and complained that the waiting room chairs were designed by someone who hated knees. "I think that's the target audience," I said. He sat beside me with an ice pack balanced across his leg. "Your mother says Paige has been difficult. What does difficult mean?" "She says no more often." "That sounds healthy." "She got angry when Mom asked her to move a work trip." "Did she move it?" "Yes." "Then it doesn't sound like she said no." Dad picked at the corner of the ice pack cover. "She told us you usually handle all the scheduling." "I used to." "You were good at it." "I was good at a lot of things I didn't want to do." He nodded. The therapist called his name. Dad started to stand, then stopped. I brought the toast. He pulled a folded sheet of paper from his jacket. "You carry it now?" "I've carried it twice. The first time didn't feel right. He offered it to me. I did not take it." "Tell me one part." He looked at the paper. "I wrote that when you were 8, you packed your own suitcase for a family trip and remembered everybody's toothbrushes. That is an alarming wedding toast. I was going somewhere with it." "Where?" "That you've always known what people needed before they asked." I looked at him. "Dad, I know." He folded the page again. "That wasn't a compliment, was it? It was meant to be." The therapist called his name a second time. Dad used his cane to stand. "I'm sorry we made it your job." It was the first apology that named the thing rather than the scene. I reached for the paper. He handed it to me and followed the therapist through the double doors. Paige called that night from my parents' kitchen. I could hear Mom running the garbage disposal behind her. "How did you do this?" she asked, without saying hello. "Do what?" "All of it. Dad's appointments, Mom's lists, groceries, pharmacy, the ice machine he apparently needs to survive. He doesn't need the ice machine. Tell him that. I used freezer bags. He says they leak. He complains recreationally." Paige lowered her voice. "I had to move a client meeting because Mom scheduled therapy during it. You didn't have to. There was no one else. There was Mom. She hates driving downtown. Then Dad could use a car service. He won't. Then he could choose a different appointment." She gave a short, humorless laugh. "You have an answer for everything now. I had those answers before. I just thought using them made me selfish. Well, congratulations. I feel extremely unselfish and completely furious. You're allowed to say no, and then what? They figure it out. Like Thanksgiving? They did. After Mom cried for 2 days. I sat on the edge of our bed. Evan was in the hallway sorting laundry and deliberately not listening. Mom crying doesn't mean you made the wrong decision. You really believe that? I'm trying to. Paige was quiet. "I thought you liked being the person everybody called," she said. "I liked being trusted. That's not the same." "No." The garbage disposal stopped. Mom's voice became clear in the background. "Ask Natalie if she can take your father Thursday." Paige did not relay the question. "I have to go," she said. "Okay. Nat?" "Yes?" "I'm not asking you to take Thursday, I know." This time, neither of us apologized for saying it. After Paige hung up, I unfolded Dad's toast on our bed. His handwriting leaned forward as if every sentence were in a hurry. There were crossed-out words, an ink stain near the middle, and a note in the margin reminding him to pause for laughter after the line about my first attempt at parallel parking. He had written about the suitcase and the toothbrushes. He had written about me organizing Mom's 40th birthday dinner, helping him recover from surgery, and answering calls whether it was noon or midnight. Near the end, he described me as the person our family leaned on because I never let us fall. It was loving. It was also a job description. Evan stood in the doorway holding a laundry basket. "How bad is it?" "It's sweet." "That bad?" I handed him the page. He read it slowly, then sat beside me. "He loves you." "I know." "He sees what you do." "I know." "He may not see what it does to you." I took the page back and folded it along Dad's original creases. "What would your wedding toast about me have said? That you're hot and you tolerate my mother. Your mother likes me." "Exactly." "Miraculous." I elbowed him. He set the basket on the floor. "Do you wish you'd let Ray give it?" "I don't know. That's allowed. You're overusing that phrase. You need it more than most people." I put the toast in the drawer beside our marriage certificate. For several weeks, I thought about it whenever I said no. Dad learned to use a car service for 2 physical therapy appointments. The first driver arrived early and listened to jazz. Dad liked him. This offended Mom, who had spent days insisting a paid driver would be unsafe, impersonal, and probably late. Paige stopped moving work meetings. She still took Dad twice a week, but she chose the days. Mom complained that the afternoon sessions interfered with dinner. "Then eat later," Paige told her. Mom called me afterward. "Your sister is under a great deal of stress. So am I. I didn't say you weren't." "Then why are you calling?" She was quiet long enough for me to hear a clock ticking in her kitchen. "I thought you might talk to her." "About what?" Her tone. "No." It was the shortest conversation we'd ever had. Paige came to my house the following Saturday carrying the cardboard box from the bakery that had made both our engagement cakes. "I brought a peace offering," she said. I opened it. Inside were 4 chocolate silk tarts. "You're on thin ice already." I bought apple too. It's underneath. That's not how pastry boxes work. It is if you stack aggressively. The apple tart had collapsed beneath the others. We ate the damaged one at the kitchen table. Evan left to buy furnace filters with the conspicuous speed of a man who recognized an approaching family conversation and had no wish to be accused of causing it. Paige rotated her fork between her fingers. "I need to tell you something about the rehearsal." I stopped chewing. "I told you I knew it was wrong." "Yes, that wasn't all of it." I set down my fork. She stared at the tart, rather than me. "When we were setting up before Mom called you about the dress, she said we might use me to block your entrance if you got delayed." "Before she called?" "Yes." "Did she know the dress was damaged?" "The shop had called. She was upset because they needed someone to pick it up and she said you'd do it." A pulse started behind my left eye. "Did you tell her you could go?" "I said I would after we finished the place cards. She said there wasn't time for me to go because I needed to be at the rehearsal, but there was time for me." Paige closed her eyes. "Yes." The refrigerator motor turned on. The sound filled the kitchen. "What exactly did she say about you standing in?" "She said Dana would probably need a person for spacing and I was closest to your height. You're 3 inches shorter." "I know." "What else?" "Nat." "What else did she say?" Paige pressed the heel of her hand against her forehead. "She said it might be good for me." I waited. "She said I'd had such a painful year, and there was no harm in letting Dad walk me down once during practice, just so I could have one nice wedding moment. The kitchen seemed to tilt without anything moving. She planned it. I don't know if planned is fair. She sent me across town. For the dress." "Your dress?" "Yes." "And then she put you under the arbor?" "Yes." "Did Dad know?" "Not until she suggested it at the venue." "I don't think so." "Did Evan?" "No." "Camille?" "No." "But you knew." Paige's eyes filled. "Yes." "I stood and carried my plate to the sink because I needed my hands occupied. You let me ask you why." I was ashamed. "You said Mom asked like it had just happened." "She did ask." I told myself it was different because she hadn't said anything about the bouquet or Evan. I thought I'd stand at the end of the aisle for 30 seconds. "You thought that made it okay?" "No." "Then why didn't you tell me?" "Because you had already removed me from the wedding, and I thought if you knew she'd suggested it earlier, you'd think I was trying to steal the whole thing." I turned. "Were you?" "No." "But you wanted the moment." "Yes." Her honesty had stopped being comforting. I gripped the edge of the sink. "Mom told me she didn't remember the sequence." "I know." "How?" "She told me you asked, and you let her lie." "I asked her to tell you. She said it would only hurt you more." I laughed once. "That's convenient. I'm telling you now." 3 months later? "Yes." "Why now?" "Because I'm starting to understand how this works." "What works?" "She makes protecting me sound like an emergency. Then she makes you responsible for the solution. Then I feel loved, you feel necessary, and nobody has to admit what it cost you." The words were too precise to have come easily. Paige pushed her plate away. "Nolan said he didn't know where my wishes ended and theirs began. I thought that was dramatic. I think he was being kind. I could feel her grief in the room, but I did not move toward it. "I need you to leave." She nodded. At the door, she paused. "I don't expect you to forgive me." "Good." Her face tightened. I hated myself immediately and did not take it back. "I'm sorry," she said. Then she left the pastry box on the counter and walked out. I called Mom before I lost the nerve. She answered cheerfully. "Hello? You sent me to the bridal shop so Paige could take my place." Silence. "Paige talked to you?" "Yes." "I wish she had let me explain. You had 3 months. There was nothing to explain. The dress needed to be picked up. She offered to go. She was helping me. So was I. You were the only one with enough time. I was the bride. You keep saying that as though I forgot." "You did forget." Her voice sharpened. "I was trying to keep the day on schedule while dealing with 2 daughters who were both emotional. I wasn't emotional until I saw Paige holding my bouquet. She was devastated after Nolan. So you gave her part of my wedding. It was a rehearsal. Would you have put her in my dress if it was only a fitting? That is absurd. Why? It would have been one nice bridal moment. You are twisting an offhand comment into a conspiracy. It wasn't offhand to Paige. Mom exhaled hard. I was looking at her standing there in that cream dress, trying so hard to be happy for you. I thought letting Dad walk her down an empty aisle might take some of the pain out of what she lost. And what was supposed to take the pain out of it for me? You had the actual wedding. There it was. I sat down because my knees had weakened. Mom continued, softer now. You had Evan. You had the dress and the guests and the whole day ahead of you. Paige had nothing. I thought you would understand. I always understand. I didn't mean, that's why it's always me. You know I'll understand after you take something. No one took anything. You took my arrival, Dad walking me down, the rehearsal with Evan, then you asked me to apologize because he wouldn't pretend it was harmless. Mom began crying. I have apologized for the rehearsal. You said everybody made mistakes. They did. What was mine? You left. After. You didn't give us a chance to fix it. Fixing it meant me standing where Paige had been and acting like I hadn't seen it. You cannot punish us forever. I'm not punishing you. I'm deciding what I trust you with. The sentence sounded like something I should have known years ago. Dad's voice came faintly through the phone. Linda, tell her the truth. I am telling the truth. No, you're defending it. A rustle followed. Then Dad came on the line. I heard part of the idea before you arrived, he said. You told me you didn't think it was replacing me. I didn't. I was wrong. Why did you offer Paige your arm? He took a breath. Your mother asked, and Paige looked like she needed me. So did I. I know. Mom said something I could not hear. Dad continued, we made the easier daughter absorb the hard thing. I closed my eyes. Did you write that before or after the toothbrush story? He gave a short, sad laugh. After. Mom took the phone back. I don't know what you want from me. Stop explaining why it was reasonable. Then what am I allowed to say? You can say it was wrong. Another silence. It was wrong, she said finally. The words sounded extracted rather than offered. I waited for more. None came. I need some distance, I said. How much? I don't know. What am I supposed to do while you decide? Live your life. She ended the call. The distance lasted through Christmas. Evan and I saw his parents on Christmas Eve and mine for 2 careful hours the following afternoon. Mom served ham, Paige brought potatoes, and Dad used the car service even though his knee had improved enough for him to drive. Nobody mentioned the wedding. It was not reconciliation. It was proof we could occupy a room without assigning me its emotional maintenance. Paige and I began texting again after New Year's. Nothing intimate at first. A photograph of Dad asleep with the ice machine still running. A warning that Mom had discovered online grocery delivery and was tipping the drivers in cash taped to the door. A picture of a candle labeled Frosted Forest. Does this smell like another wet fence? She asked. More like a cold basement. Progress. Dad was retiring in March after 37 years at a commercial printing company. Mom called me 6 weeks before his last day. I found a private room at the supper club, she said. It holds 60. That sounds good. I thought you could handle invitations and the slideshow. No, you haven't even heard the details. I'm not organizing the party. Your father would love it if you did. I'll attend. I'll give a toast if he wants. That isn't the same. No, Paige will never manage all the details. I looked at the wedding photograph on our mantel, the one of Evan and me beneath the arbor after the ceremony. Ask her. She has no patience for vendors. She negotiated free delivery from my florist. That was one phone call. Then hire someone. For a retirement party? Or make it simpler. Mom sighed. Everything is simpler when you don't care how it turns out. I care. I'm still not doing it. Paige called 20 minutes later. Mom asked me to organize Dad's party. What did you say? I said yes. You don't have to prove anything. I'm not proving anything. Are you sure? No. I laughed. She did too. I need one thing, she said. What cake does Dad actually like? German chocolate. Mom always orders vanilla because she hates coconut. I knew it. You have become powerful. Don't tell Mom. Over the next 6 weeks, Paige asked me 4 questions. I answered all 4 and volunteered nothing else. The afternoon of the party, she sent me a message. The slideshow projector won't connect. The caterer is 40 minutes behind and Mom says the centerpieces look cheap. I stared at the screen. Then another message appeared. I am handling it. Do not come early. Evan read over my shoulder. What time does the invitation say? 6. He checked the clock. It was 4:30. Want to go early? He asked. Every old instinct in me had already gathered its coat. No, I said, and set the phone face down. We were invited for 6. At 5:30, I put on my coat. It took effort not to feel virtuous about waiting. Virtue was just another way I turned discomfort into a task I could perform correctly. Evan stood by the door holding Dad's gift, a framed photograph of the Cedar Hollow card box, before wedding cards had filled it. You ready? He asked. No. Great. We're on schedule. Mom texted while we were backing out. The caterer still isn't here. I read it aloud. Evan kept his eyes on the driveway. Did she ask a question? No. Then she's sharing a fact. She never shares facts. She deploys them. What does Paige say? I checked. Nothing. I locked the phone and put it in my purse. The supper club was attached to a golf course that looked abandoned beneath the last gray snow of March. Inside, the carpeting had a red and gold pattern designed to conceal gravy. A wooden sign near the entrance read, Ray Mercer, 37 years of making a good impression. The pun was Paige's. Dad had spent his career supervising press operators at the printing company, and he enjoyed bad jokes more when they involved equipment. It was 6:03. The caterer's van stood beside the kitchen entrance. They made it, I said. Civilization continues. We entered the private room. Nothing looked disastrous. The centerpieces were small glass jars wrapped with strips of printed paper from Dad's company. Each held 3 white carnations and a sprig of greenery. They were inexpensive. They were also personal, simple, and far better suited to Dad than anything Mom would have ordered. The slideshow screen was blank. Paige stood on a chair near the projector table, holding one end of an extension cord while a server crawled beneath the screen. Try it now, she said. The projector flashed blue, displayed no signal, and went dark again. Mom spotted me. Thank God. The words crossed the room before she did. Paige looked down from the chair. For a second, relief moved over her face, too. Then she pointed at me. You're a guest. I know. Tell her. Mom reached us. The projector won't connect to her computer, the food is late, and half the place cards are in the wrong order. They're not in the wrong order, Paige said. I changed the tables because Diane brought another person. Again? I asked. She believes invitations are expandable. Mom ignored us. You're good with computers. No, I'm not. You fixed our printer. I turned it on. It had been on. The power strip was off. Could you just look? Paige climbed down from the chair. I have it. You've been saying that for an hour, Mom replied, and the caterer arrived. Late. They're putting food out. The appetizers were supposed to be passed at 5:45. There were crackers. Crackers are not appetizers. Dad appeared beside us holding a paper plate with 5 crackers and a cube of cheese. I disagree. He kissed my cheek, shook Evan's hand, and admired his gift before we could stop him from unwrapping it. This is the box, he said. It's a photograph of the box, Evan clarified. I understand photography. He's nervous, I told Dad. I can see that. Dad carried the frame to a table already crowded with gifts. He looked happier than he had at any point during the wedding. Mom watched Paige return to the projector. She should have tested it yesterday. I did, Paige said without turning. It worked with my television. That isn't the same. No, the television is not 70 years old. The server under the screen laughed. Mom lowered her voice. You could help her. I am helping her. How? I'm doing what she asked, which was nothing. Exactly. Mom looked at me as though I had begun speaking another language. Then she surprised me. She closed her mouth. "All right," she said. It did not sound sincere. It sounded strenuous. She walked toward the kitchen without asking me to follow. Paige looked over her shoulder. "Was that a no?" "It may have been." "Are you sure? Don't frighten it." The projector never connected. At 6:15, Paige unplugged it, dragged the screen into the corner, and placed a stack of printed photographs on each table. She asked everyone to pass them around during dinner instead. The pictures were better than a slideshow. People held them, argued over dates, and called Dad across the room to identify former co-workers with unfortunate facial hair. One photograph showed him in enormous safety glasses beside a press. Another showed Mom sitting on the hood of his first car. Dad took that one from Aunt Diane. "You said this was lost." "I said I didn't know where it was," Mom replied. "Where was it? You don't need every detail." "It was in her dresser," Paige said. Mom gave her a look. Dinner began 28 minutes late. Nobody left. The roast beef was hot, the potatoes were real, and the bartender poured generously enough that the schedule lost its importance. I sat with Evan and two of Dad's former co-workers. One of them, a woman named Marlene, told us Dad had once stopped an entire press run because the blue ink was emotionally wrong. "It was purple," Dad called from the next table. "It was navy," Marlene shouted back. "It was not company standard." Paige moved through the room, checking food, refilling coffee, and directing gifts to the correct table. She looked tired. She also looked competent. At one point, a server told her they were short 6 dessert forks. I felt the old reflex rise. There were clean forks near the bar. I had seen them when we entered. I could retrieve them before anyone noticed. Paige said, "Then use dinner forks." The server nodded and walked away. I kept eating. Mom noticed me not moving. Our eyes met across the room. She looked toward the bar, then back at Paige. She stayed seated. When it was time for speeches, Paige stood beside Dad with a glass of wine and no notes. "I had a slideshow," she began, "but Dad spent 37 years repairing printing equipment, which does not qualify him to repair a projector." Dad raised one finger. "Different process." "Thank you for demonstrating." Everyone laughed. Paige talked about visiting the plant as an adult and watching Dad walk through the press room. He knew which machine vibrated before a belt slipped, which operator drank decaf but kept the regular coffee can, and which loading door stuck in cold weather. "I always thought Dad fixed things because he knew how," she said. "Now I think half the time he fixed them because everybody else knew he would." I looked at her. She found me across the tables. "That can be a compliment," she continued, "as long as you remember the person fixing everything is still a person." Dad lowered his head. Mom went very still. Paige lifted her glass to Dad. "May retirement teach you to let somebody else notice the weird vibration." Dad hugged her before anyone finished drinking. His speech was short. He thanked his co-workers, Mom, Paige, and me. He described retirement as an involuntary experiment in staying home with Linda, which earned him a sharp elbow and the loudest laugh of the night. Then he unfolded a familiar piece of paper, my wedding toast. I recognized the ink stain. "I wrote this for another occasion," he said. "I didn't get to say it then." The room quieted. I felt Evan's hand cover mine beneath the table. Dad looked at me. "It says my daughter Natalie has always known what everybody needs. I wrote that like it was only a gift. I'm proud of how capable she is. I'm even prouder that she finally learned capable doesn't mean available." My face went hot. He folded the page without reading the rest. "I'm still working on learning it," he added. Then he raised his glass toward both of us. "To my daughters. Different strengths. Same stubbornness." "That's genetic," Paige said. Mom looked down at her napkin, but she was smiling. After cake, Dad asked me to dance. There was no dance floor, only a strip of open carpet beside the blank projector screen. A slow song played through ceiling speakers that made everything sound as if it were happening underwater. "Not announced," he said. I looked at him. Still no pressure. "I know." I took his hand. We moved badly between the gift table and the stack of extra chairs. Dad counted under his breath exactly as Evan had. Stop anticipating, I told him. You sound like your mother. That may be the cruelest thing you've ever said to me. He laughed. Over his shoulder, I saw Mom standing beside Paige. She was not directing the dance, photographing it, or signaling that we should turn toward the room. She simply watched. I'm sorry I didn't dance with you at the wedding, I said. I'm sorry I gave you a reason not to. He squeezed my hand once. That was enough. The caterer packed leftovers into foil trays. Dad's former co-workers left in loud groups. Aunt Diane took 2 centerpieces after being explicitly told the jars belonged to Paige. By the time only family remained, Mom was rearranging containers in the kitchen refrigerator. Paige collapsed into a chair. I hate parties. You did well, I said. The projector died. The photographs were better. The food was late. It was good. Mom hated the flowers. From the kitchen, Mom called, I did not hate them. You called them cheap. I said carnations are economical. Paige looked at me. That is not what she said. Mom returned carrying a tray of cake. I was wrong about the flowers, she said, and the projector solution was clever. Paige blinked. Thank you. I still think the tables were crowded. There she is, Paige said. Mom smiled despite herself. Then she turned to me. You were right. About what? Paige could manage it. Paige raised her hand. Still in the room. I know. Mom sat beside her. I shouldn't have said you couldn't. No, Paige replied. Mom nodded, accepting the answer without demanding softness. When Evan went to help Dad load gifts, Mom followed me into the coat room. For several seconds, she pretended to search for her scarf. It hung over her arm. I didn't ask you to fix anything tonight, she said. You asked about the projector. I stopped asking. You did. It was very difficult. I laughed. She smiled, then looked down at the scarf. I'm sorry I treated your wedding like something you could spare pieces of. The apology was so specific that I could not protect myself from it. I thought because you were happy, taking a little from you wouldn't hurt as much as letting Paige hurt. It still hurt. I know. She stopped herself. I'm beginning to understand. I leaned against the coat room wall. I'm not ready for everything to go back to normal. I don't think normal was working. No. Can I call you Sunday? Just to talk? I can try. No assignments. One small question about Easter. Mom. A conversation. Sunday. I hugged her. It was not forgiveness for every year. It was not a promise that she would never reach for the old pattern again. It was one honest apology in a room full of coats, followed by one request instead of an assumption. For us, that was a beginning. Paige carried the leftover cake to our car. I'm not taking half of that, I said. It's German chocolate. Mom hates coconut, exactly. If I bring it home, she'll tell Dad he shouldn't eat it. You've become strategic. I learned from the best. She placed the tray in our back seat. Thank you for not helping tonight. You're welcome. That sounded rude. It's the nicest thing you've said to me. She hugged me. This time, neither of us held on because a room expected it. The finished wedding album arrived the following week. Evan and I opened it at the dining table beside the stubborn dishwasher. Most of the photographs were beautiful. The ceremony beneath the maples, Camille laughing with one eyelash missing, Dad's repaired card box, the family portrait where nobody moved closer. At the back was a small envelope containing unprinted images guests had submitted. Dana's assistant had taken one during the rehearsal to record the ceremony positions. In it, Paige stood beneath the arbor holding my bouquet. Dad was beside her. Mom's hands were raised toward the back of her dress. Evan stood several feet away. His hands were empty at his sides, his body turned slightly away from the place everyone expected him to take. I nearly deleted the file. Instead, I printed it and slid it into the pocket inside the album's back cover. Evan watched me. Why keep that one? I looked at the empty space between him and my sister. Because you wouldn't begin without me. He closed the album and rested his hand over mine. Still won't, he said.